I'm at the work meeting. Let me call you back.
We're not that quite.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we have a VIP.
Sorry, Wayne.
Everybody's gonna get so excited.
Glad you're here. I was wondering if you're gonna come.
We have quorum now.
Yeah.
Super quorum. Well, it's now the 19th of February, Thursday. We'll start our planning commission meeting. We have a quorum here, obviously. Should we take a roll call vote? A roll call to see who's here?
Commissioner Light,
Present.
Commissioner Boswell,
Present.
Commissioner Young,
Here.
Commissioner Gaddis,
Present.
Commissioner Conroy,
Present.
Commissioner Hazeltine,
Here.
Chairperson Craig.
Present. And can we get a, let's see, make sure we get all the notes here straight. We do salute to the flag, and Commissioner Conroy, since you were so excited, I will let you lead us in this wondrous event. Thank you.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Indeed. Indeed. Okay, so we now have to approve the order of agenda. Do we have any
Motion
motions?
to approve the order of agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Blue folder items. Do we have any blue folder items, Jamal?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I think there was something from Councilmember Obaji, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Geez, I
I didn't get
it was an email.
looked up until, oh.
Was it an email? Yeah, he
Poll on,
called me, said he
an
said
agenda- on
something,
the
but I
first
hadn't seen
agenda
his
item.
stuff. Barely get here in time.
Motion to receive and file blue folder items.
A second?
I say we read them.
I don't have it in my email.
No.
It came today?
Oh, you might not have copied everybody. Is
He,
that considered a blue folder if not everybody was copied on it?
Was it submitted to staff?
I think that was
Mark, you
just
received it,
submitted
right?
to Mark.
From
Zane.
Zane Obaji.
I received it, yes. Okay.
So that's not considered a blue folder if it wasn't sent to the rest of the
Is it on the
council, right?
website for the public?
Yes.
No, it's not. I checked the website.
Not a blue
Yeah.
folder item.
It is there.
Is it there now? I checked earlier. I didn't see anything on there.
It's online?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Really?
What is it?
Online.
Because on the city
Calendar.
side, there's an admin report,
Look under calendar.
development standards, ACAP, and then a sidewalk examples. I didn't see anything
So
from,
hypothetically, if the blue folder item exists, I motion to receive and file. Do we have a
I
second?
think.
Second.
All those
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. We will.
I have a motion that we read it out loud.
Here we
No,
go.
it's not really readable out loud. It's
He did
charts.
he did a survey, wasn't it, on the,
Yeah.
some sort? I haven't seen it because I
We'll
was.
talk about it. In the-
Okay, we'll go further along. Okay, let's, now we go into our consent calendar. These are business items except those formally noticed for public hearing or those pulled for discussion as assigned to the consent calendar. Commission members may request that any consent calendar item be removed, discussed, and acted upon separately. Items removed from the consent calendar will be taken up under the executed consent calendar section below. Those items remaining on the consent calendar will be approved in one motion. The chair will call on anyone wishing to address the council on any, or commission, on any consent calendar item on the agenda, which has not been polled by the commission for discussion. Each speaker will be permitted to speak only once, and comments will be limited to a total of 3 minutes. Anyone want to speak on that, on our consent calendar items?
I would like to speak on F2.
Please go ahead. Oh, actually,
Why don't you
to
pull
vote.
it?
We have to pull it first, right?
Oh,
Just motion
I'd
to
like
pull it.
Motion to
Just
pull it.
pull it.
motion to pull F2.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And I guess we discussed that now, that you pulled it.
Yeah, well, we can approve the ones that have already.
Yeah,
been-
so can we
they're not
approve-
pulled.
Approve item
Motion to
F1?
approve consent calendar item that has not been pulled.
F1.
F1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Please continue with F2, Commissioner Conroy.
Yes, there was a lot of minutes to review this time. And on, I found an inconsistency on the June 19th, 2025 minutes at the end, page 5. Interestingly, Councilmember Young did a motion to adjourn, but immediately after that, it says that Commissioner Young was absent. So, small point of clarification.
She's like Heisenberg.
Yeah, maybe she was thinking.
Made the motion and ran out the door.
While I was in New York.
Simultaneously hear it not, so she's like, okay.
I have magical powers.
We opened the box and
Like Schrodinger's commissioner, so.
See what I'm referring to or not?
23 of the packet.
Yes, was that the item she recused herself for?
She made the motion to adjourn. This is the very end on page 5.
Okay, let's see, what,
I think it's just a typo.
I
Okay.
don't see it that way on mine. It says adjournment, 7:32, motion by Commissioner Gaddis, seconded by Commissioner Hazeltine.
Are
and
you looking
approved.
at the, I'm sorry, let's see, July 17, 25,
Young was
November.
absent.
I'm sorry, I referenced the wrong one. It's the November 25.
okay.
What page?
What page in the?
no, what page
what
of the
page
packet?
packet?
I just took a screen cap and have to bring it back up, but I can do that. Actually, I have it saved here.
Yeah, that's on page
November 20.
5.
Yeah, it shows, it's page 5.
Page
The very bottom.
adjournment, yeah.
7:19 PM adjournment.
I was there that day.
She was. I can attest to
Why
that.
Page 5 is an administrative report.
It's page 5 of those
The
minutes.
minutes, not the agenda.
The minutes.
Oh,
What date?
It's the November,
November.
The minutes
November
for the
20th.
November 20th, 25 commission meeting.
Right.
It's a 5-page document, the minutes are. Excuse me, it's a 6-page document. And on page 5 at the bottom, section O is the adjournment at 7:19 PM. Motion by Commissioner Young to adjourn.
seconded by.
Well, that does seem to say that she's not here.
Commissioner Young was absent, it says.
Yeah, so I think that part just needs to be struck, that's all.
And the motion is 7-0?
Yes.
Mhm.
I think I
No, there was, Commissioner Light was absent for
Oh.
the meeting, so.
There we go. Young needs to be switched out for
transferred.
light.
There you go.
I'll be young.
So, yeah, we just need to change who made the motion on that. We can bring that
So
back.
No.
who made the motion is okay.
Oh,
The line under
Oh,
the
who was
motion.
absent?
Should say
needs-
Commissioner
We
Light.
need to change young to light.
Oh, okay.
On
All
page
these
36 of
adjectives
the
that are
packet,
names.
signed.
Got it.
You can be light and I'll be young.
Classic. Okay, so do we make a motion to do that?
Hold on, and then I had a general question in regards to the minutes. We got like a whole batch of them all at once, some of them like 9 months old, so,
Yeah.
well, Is that standard for them to be spread out and then batched, or?
No, it just, we've been catching up for a few months, and this was the big batch and there were some we had to get earlier based on the urgency of the projects, because a lot of times we can't get them through the city attorney's office till we have signed minutes. So these lagged, and now we're caught up. So we should have fewer batches, and then, in the very near future, we'll have, after the meeting. That's our goal. We're getting fully staffed as well, so we'll be able to accommodate that.
Oh, that's good news. All right, thank you. With that change, I would move to receive and file F2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. And one other question, Mr. Scully, was, this probably answered that question, but one of the other commissioners from the public amenities one, Mr. Barocco, was asking me, when you go to the city website, you can never see any of the minutes from any of our meetings. I guess because we're behind, that's probably why they're not there.
Correct.
Okay, very good. All right. That makes
Just
sense.
a point of clarification, the motion was to receive and file, but it should be a motion
to
to
approve.
approve. And I do
With
want to
changes.
note that moving forward, we will be having the minutes on the subsequent meeting. We want to be to a point where you can recall what was stated at the meeting and have a better recollection of what's in the minutes. We've probably spent about a year and a half trying to get caught up, and we're almost to that point, thankfully. So I apologize for the delay on these minutes and the fact that you're receiving so many at one meeting.
Very good. Well, we'll look forward to seeing them in a. much
So
more
you
expedited
need
manner.
a motion for to approve the
approve.
correction, or?
Approve with correction?
Or anything?
It would be approve the minutes with the correction
I
noted.
think we did
I
that.
said receive and file.
Right.
So do we need to
Okay.
redo the motion?
Yeah, redo with the
Okay, I'll
correction.
move to approve F2 with the changes, the corrections as stated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion carries. Very good. Now we're, the items excluded consent calendar items. I
That was it.
believe
We just
That's
took
it.
care of that.
Now we're at the next section of public participation on non-agenda items. This section is intended to provide members of the public with the opportunity to comment on any subject that does not appear on this agenda for the action. This section is limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes to address the commission. Each speaker will be permitted to speak only once. Written requests, if any, will be considered first under this section. Jamal, do we have any speaker cards?
We do not have any speakers that would like to speak on this
I think
topic.
I see someone moving up there. Anyone in the audience would like to come and speak?
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners and staff. Sheila Lamb, District 4. Redondo Beach is under significant pressure to increase density. Cities that plan growth responsibly manage the public assets that make density livable. One of the most basic planning standards is park acreage per resident. When population grows faster than open space, quality of life declines. Parks become more crowded, access shrinks, and the health and climate benefits of open space erode. Redondo Beach is already park poor. By county standards, with RENA, our population will increase. If park acreage does not increase at the same rate, park access per resident will decline. In 2000, for example, it's already happened. In 2003, Redondo had about 2.36 acres of parkland per 1,000 residents. Today, we're closer to 2.0 or 2.2, yet our stated standard is 3.0. This is the predictable result of policy choices. Right now, what we are structurally doing is this. Population goes up, development intensity goes up, public open space per person goes down. This is not neutral planning. This is a long-term trade-off, short-term fiscal flexibility in exchange for permanent loss of public goods. Cities that manage growth well use more robust tools than we are currently relying on. They use park LOS standards and no net loss policies for public open space. They require replacement parkland when public land is repurposed. They tie increases in density and FAR to funded park capacity, establish firm joint use agreements, and provide clear guidelines for privately owned public open space. And they protect key public lands from being treated primarily as revenue tools. The argument here is for responsible growth. Cities that plan well don't grow population without protecting the public assets that make density livable. Public land, open space, and parkland are core civic infrastructure, not a balance sheet recapture strategy. If Redondo Beach intends to meet its own adopted standard and protect livability as density increases, now is the time to strengthen implementation through the use of legitimate planning tools that you can write into the general plan. If you have questions about these tools, I am happy to send you materials that explain them in detail. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present who'd like to speak? Please come down and say your name.
Steve Haig, 30-plus year resident, Redondo Beach. Love Redondo Beach. Please try and keep us steered in the right direction. Just a couple of quick comments. I concur with the parks. I have property in other states, and it's wonderful. As everybody's aware, these are terrible devices for our children, for our kids, for driving in vehicles, and many other things. Let's set them down, and 100%, ma'am, bring them to parks. Create an atmosphere that Redondo Beach, as a city, stands for. And I have two other comments. I believe one of your subjects tonight, I could be wrong, second floor dining along Artesia, and aviation. Although I'd love to think Hennessy's looking over the ocean is a wonderful place, I fear, and I could be reading the wrong.
You know what? That's on our agenda tonight.
Right.
So if you want to talk about, just come back up. It'll be like 5 minutes.
Okay.
At
The
the
next agenda item, J1.
I'll do that.
sorry,
The
Wayne.
other comment is about the artwork going on Artesia. I've been hit and injured by e-bikes. Recent traffic has gone over that medium, completely breaking water pipes and other things. I think you're going to develop a safety issue depending on what it is. But my real concern is, I don't care what race people are. I don't care how they behave, hopefully with laws and other things. I was at a recent meeting, and one of the, literally a blurb on a slide was LGBTQ plus sculpture. I caution you on that, because that's coming across as a city expressing that to the residents. You have a library, you have a high school with kids going, you have all kinds of things with public activity. And if you're going to approve that and move forward, please give your cell phones out on the website so moms that have to teach their kids about things like that can give you a call. Please don't move forward with that. There's too many other beautiful things we could do. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers who want to talk tonight? You want to speak? Please come up, state your name for the record.
Hi. My name is Jesse Lee Willard, Blackjack Security Incorporated, and I represent myself as an independent investigator working for IRS criminal investigations. There's a strange behavior that I observed in Los Angeles County as well as Orange County, comprehensive investigation, including 61 criminal syndicates, transnational criminal syndicates. The investigation created the Homeland Security Task Force under the cabinet member, Christy Nome, as well as the U.S. Marshals Task Force, my independent investigation working with intelligence assets and agencies with the United States government. Currently investigating human trafficking, drug trafficking, among other crimes such as child kidnapping, child poisoning that occurred in Tustin. Homeland Security did try to cover for some individuals who may appear to be my relatives. I was kidnapped at 7 months years old from St. James Church, and my family is not my family. I discovered that in my 40s. I'm an independent contractor who works on commission for the government, both IRS-CI as well as the U.S. Marshal's Office as a warrant officer. I just wanted to identify myself as a criminal investigator within this jurisdiction. I'm trying to obtain employment within Los Angeles County. I did receive an affirmative hiring decision by Los Angeles Police Department. My hiring was obstructed by HR, who is related to an individual that I used to work with. If SAC-AFTRA had issued any permits that facilitated officer impersonation, I caution the council to understand the Fraternal Order of Police is investigating any such activity within Los Angeles and Orange County, okay? I will not reveal what I do besides those two investigative functions within the federal government. However, I would like consideration as a detective within this jurisdiction, and that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jamal, is there anyone else online who would like to speak?
There are no e-attendees at this time that would like to speak.
Very good. Next we come to public hearings. I'd like to say one thing before we start. Back in December, we heard a project that was in the coastal zone, and the commission had denied it. And there's a lot of online buzz about it. You probably saw a lot of articles and such in the papers. Even a lot of web services were posting stuff on it, all over the map about commentary on it. It was heard in an appeal on Tuesday this week. And interestingly enough, the developer came back and actually brought in some of the things that we had questions about. So they added 24 parking spots. It made the project better for what it was. You know, obviously there's some issues. They did a parking study, which is something we'd asked for, which they wouldn't do before. Unfortunately, the accuracy of that probably is going to be in question because mid-January is hardly the same kind of traffic volume that that area would experience in the summer months. But the good thing was that the council saw that, the developer made changes, which I think helped the project better, and the mayor and most of the council made very positive comments about what we did. And so they wanted to thank all of us for our time and effort and thoughtful consideration of the project to really look out for the residents. And that was something that I even received several phone calls from some council members from other cities on Wednesday that were actually, they were saying we're glad that there are commissions that are actually representing the residents better. Now it's tough because we have all these laws coming from Sacramento, but as I said at the council meeting when I was there, if anything, this is a poster child for why we need to be looking at state constitutional amendment like through our neighborhood voices, which will allow the municipalities to have a voice again by putting local control back on a local level. At any rate, I wanted to thank all of you and your time, and it's been, the council and mayor are really appreciative of what we did. And I think that was really great. We all put in some good work, and thank you for your service.
And you as well.
Thank you. Now, getting back to the work at hand, we're going to be talking on item J1, which is a...
Ex parte first.
Oh, I'm totally sorry. You're right. Ex parte communication, please. Commissioner Light.
None to declare.
Commissioner Boswell.
Spoke to no one.
Even on your birthday?
I was unable to speak to anyone on my birthday.
It was a couple days ago. Commissioner Young.
Members of the public.
Very good. Commissioner Gaddis.
Members of the public, Chair Craig, Councilman Obaji, Councilman Barrett. That's it.
Very good. Commissioner Conroy.
Councilmember Obaji and Councilmember Barron.
Very good.
Councilman Obaji, Chair Craig, and that's it.
Very good. I spoke with Commissioner Hazeltine, briefly with Commissioner Gaddis, and with Councilmember Obaji. And I don't think I talked to Mayor Light, but I don't think it was actually all about this, but I'll mention it anyway, just so it's in the record. So we will now start with item J1, which is a public hearing to consider an ordinance amending the Title 10, Chapter 2 zoning and land use of the Redondo Beach Municipal Code pertaining to amendments to the C2 and C2 PD zones located on properties within the Artesia and Aviation Corridors area.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. So I believe we start with a presentation with staff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and Commission. I'd first like to introduce John Champa, the individual sitting behind me. John's been working with us over the past 4 to 5 months as a contract planner. He's going to be joining the city as a full-time city employee within a few weeks. John has 18 years experience working in coastal cities in both San Clemente and the city of Dana Point. He's been a really great addition to the team. So we're excited to have him here tonight, and he'll be giving the presentation.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you for the introduction, Mark. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I'll be presenting to you the Artesia and Aviation Corridors Area Plan proposed amendments to the C2 and C2 PD zones. Just to give you a little background, also known as the ACAP, was originally approved by the City Council back in December 8th of 2020. Some of the purposes associated with the development of the plan were to revitalize the aging commercial areas, encourage private investment along this corridor, as well as improve the walkability and pedestrian activity, supporting neighborhood serving commercial uses through this area, as well as to strengthen North Redondo as a key community anchor, as well as includes policies related to increasing the floor area ratio to incentivize redevelopment and establish a balance of building size as it relates to parking and lot size. So since the adoption back in 2020, there's been limited redevelopment that has occurred in this area, and the corridor has not really seen the revitalization that was envisioned at the time with the development of the plan. Some additional background is that in August 5th of 2025, the City Council encouraged the corridor revitalization through its review and discussion on the draft land use element update that's occurring, and advised staff to consider and propose a increased floor area ratio from 0.5 to 1.5. In addition to that, back in October 21st of 2025, the City Council did approve the elimination of parking requirements for commercial uses within the ACAP. And then lastly, back in January 6th of this year, the City Council reviewed the proposed amendments before you, which would be consistent with the recommended FAR increase of 1.5, as well as other related development standards to allow for that increased floor area ratio. So with that, key summary of the proposed amendments, the development standards as it relates to the C2 and C2 PD zones. Again, increasing the floor area ratio from 0.6 to 1.5, increasing the maximum stories from 2 to 3, as well as increasing the maximum height from 30 to 45 feet. As part of that, some design elements have been incorporated in as well, including the allowed third floor to be set back 5 feet from the face of the building from that second floor along the Artesia Aviation Corridor frontage. Reducing the corner lot side yard setback from 10 to 5 feet, as well as to increase the front yard setback in the C2 PD zone from 3 to 5 feet. Also included continuance of the rear yard setback of 20 feet when adjacent to residential zone property, as well as the elimination of the 10% requirement for the public open space. Also, what's been incorporated into the draft standards before you are design standards, which are reflective of to ensure a high quality design is incorporated in with these new enhanced development standards to reinforce the activation of this area, which include requiring a minimum first floor ceiling height of 12 feet for the ground floor commercial areas, as well as having them being street oriented and at grade for commercial entrances for pedestrians. And then requiring a high quality facade in terms of design and materials. And with that, to convey the commercial uses in this area, as well as create a pedestrian walkable area. The requirement of 70% transparency through glass and doors along these retail frontages, as well as creating a distinctive corner architectural elements to create interest in this area. Additional to that is other facade enhancement elements that could be incorporated in, including awnings and canopies that would be complementary to the architectural design element, as well as established pedestrian lighting to encourage the walkable area in the evenings as well. So with that, we have some examples throughout the city, some along Artesian Aviation Corridor. Here on the left-hand side, we have a building at 2001 Artesia. Here you can see it's a 4-story structure. Here is a great example of why an increased ground floor height of at least 12 feet would be an improvement to the overall scale and aesthetics of the building to contribute to the strong first level commercial. As well as you can see other areas where we've got 3-story buildings. And what's key here is the importance of the articulation and the upper floor setbacks to reduce the scale and massing of the structures. Here we have some other design examples, one being in Venice, which is a concept rendering, again reflecting of the increased first floor height, as well as the upper floor setbacks. The one on the right-hand side is in Dana Point, where you can see as well the increased height for the first floor and the upper floor setbacks for deck areas as well. So here we have a cross-section just to illustrate the proposed concept in terms of the street right-of-way in these particular areas is approximately 100 feet in width, and then with the additional setback of from the right-of-way to the building face of the additional 5 feet, and then for that upper third floor, an additional 5-foot separation to, again, articulate that and avoid any kind of canyonization effects. So with that, these proposed amendments and schedule for the general plan update for the land use element is tentatively scheduled for to go forward to the city council in May of 2026 of this year, and then a call for election in June, and then later in the fall, the Article 27 election. So with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission open the public hearing, receive any testimony on and written materials related to that, deliberate on the matter, close the public hearing, and then adopt the resolution per staff's recommendation. So that concludes staff's presentation. Staff's available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, John. I just have a few points to follow up on that presentation with. One is the photo that we showed at 2001 Artesia. John had mentioned that was a good example of why we should have high ceiling heights on the ground floor. Not that that building has it, it's that it does not have an emphasis on the commercial and it has low ceiling heights. So that highlights why there is a need for greater emphasis on the commercial for ground level. Also, we provided the schedule here, and it has the, we're working with trying to get this on the ballot for an Article 27 election with the anticipation of the council adopting this in May. So the commission could potentially have a few additional meetings to work on this, to mull this over. We'd probably need to get the recommendation wrapped up by April, but I just want the commission to be clear, you do have some more time beyond this one meeting to provide input. And at this point, this is an early draft, and we're really seeking the Planning Commission's input on this, on ways that we can improve it and hopefully get a better outcome in terms of design and revitalization along Artesia and Aviation.
Very good. And probably for the benefit of the public who don't know what Article 27 is, it's basically the Measure DD written into our city charter, which is basically when there's a zoning change of significance that it has to go to a vote for the public.
Yeah, that's correct. And if you're intensifying the land use where it impacts traffic, such as increasing the floor area ratio from 0.6 to 1.5, that would trigger it. So that's why this has to go to the vote.
Great, very good. Are there questions? Commissioner Gaddis.
And just to reiterate, as you know, we're talking about 27 and Measure DD, whatever we do here and whatever they do at the council, this still needs to be voted on by the public. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so just so everyone knows that, you know, this is not a final decision, even council is not a final decision. It's the public making the decision. We're just making recommendations.
Yes.
So, okay, great. Second question is, it wasn't clear to me from some of the language, but the drawing looks clear, or the rendering. The top floor setback isn't just applicable to the street front, right? Or is it just applicable to the street front? It looked like they showed two corner lots, and both corners it was set back from the street. So, but how about from the back? Is there a different setback for the two lower levels from the rear than from the top level? Because the rendering kind of implied, well, it was clearly set back from this street. Both units were on the corner, which is not the majority of units, but those were set back. And the question is that set back all the way around the building, or is it just from streets?
We've got the ordinance open in front of us here.
Okay.
So the upper floor setback, the third floor setback, the additional third floor setback is only as identified in the code is only for the street frontage along Artesia or Aviation, not along the either side. And the rear setback is only 20 feet if adjacent to residential.
Of the entire building. Okay, so but can you go back to the picture showing the setbacks? So you see there's a setback. It looks like there's a setback from the side streets as well, not just from Artesia, at least in this rendering, right?
Yeah, this rendering is only intended to reflect the front setback. This is 2D dimension, so it's just difficult to illustrate the sides here. However, there was no intention of an upper floor setback in this rendering.
Except from Artesia itself.
Correct.
Okay.
So I guess we'd be visualizing this as the street being Artesia then.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just unclear from the rendering. So, okay. This is an important question. I kind of wish we had our deputy city attorney here because so ultimately, if this is approved, it renders all Artesia from Aviation to Inglewood on both sides of the street eligible to put in as high buildings as 45 feet, correct? Except if they have a rooftop dining deck, and they'll have to have an elevator, thing, and that's perhaps as much as another 15 feet, let's say, hypothetically. So we could end up with structures as high as 60 feet. That's along Artesia. We also have, now is this applicable to Aviation as well? And that would be Aviation from Artesia to Prospect, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess I asked two questions. One was the rooftop dining, making it 60 feet. And then exactly the streets that this would impact.
Yeah, so it would be artesian, aviation, the boundaries of that are actually specified in the code, and it's the cross streets that you referenced.
Prospect, yeah, and Inglewood,
Yeah.
and that corner.
And under the separate or draft ordinance you'll be reviewing for the next item, there is an allowance for elevators to exceed the height limit by the minimum necessary required. So you could potentially get an element on the building that is as tall as 60 feet.
Okay, just so everybody knows. Now, this is actually the point of the question. Once this passes, are all of those properties now in possession of a new set of entitlements to build that big on the property? Does this become part of the property value of those properties?
It could impact property value. It's not an entitlement. An entitlement is like a permit, or you approve a project.
Okay,
so
the entitlement doesn't occur until the project is approved.
That's correct. So it would be a zoning standard, and in the process, it would be discretionary. So it wouldn't be by right to build to this height.
Okay, that's important, right?
Yeah, this is the maximum that would be allowed through design review and subject to the project meeting certain standards. So as we are gearing up for the meeting, I was thinking one option is the commission could look at adding some additional standards to ensure that if we're going to allow buildings to be this tall, it's only under certain circumstances that we think are compatible or fit with the corridor.
Can it be sort of almost the reverse, and that is that it's almost like a conditional use permit? It wouldn't be a conditional use permit, but it would be a use permit, but allowable. It doesn't change a modification of zoning because they're allowed hypothetically, but it would be sort of on a case-by-case basis that height would be approved as opposed to a by right. Does that make sense?
It does, and that's correct. So it'd be through a conditional use permit or design review. Design review applications are discretionary too.
Okay.
There could be some language added noting that 45 feet is the maximum allowed and not automatic or assumed to be by right. I've worked with zoning codes that have had that language in it for height limits where it makes it really clear that that's the maximum. It can be somewhat exceptional and you have to meet certain criteria in order to reach that.
Do those criteria have to be defined now if we modify the language?
They should be defined in the ordinance. You can direct staff to do some work on that with the general concept, and we can return with
Can we do that? Do we have to vote on that? Is that part of our resolution that we have to direct staff to come up with some sort of criteria? Does it have to be objective criteria decided in advance?
It can be subjective because this is for commercial development.
Right.
The objective only applies to residential.
Okay.
We're limited for residential, but it can be subjective criteria, and the commission can certainly make recommendations, suggestions on what that criteria should be, and request that staff do some additional work on this prior to either taking it to the city council or to meeting about it one more time.
After all is said and done here, can we make sure that we talk about including that, and so we can vote on that, and about directing staff to do that?
Yes, and if the commission chooses to go that direction and vote that way, then that's something staff will.
So what my concern here is that we put this in and it's interpreted as, wow, my property now, I can put a 45-foot building here, and it's my right to do so. And then if for some reason a future, and we're talking years down the road, none of us will be part of this commission at that point. And likely the council will be a completely different set of people too. But at some point, if there are like 20 of these buildings already up and stuff, and the residents are like, okay, this is kind of getting a little crazy. This is not what we intended to have, corridors of taller buildings and stuff. And I don't know what the taste will be, but isn't this isn't an entitlement. If we somehow, if they decide that that's somehow, they're done approving projects this big, for whatever reason, that they won't get sued the way you would if you were downzoning a property, just basically taking away the rights of the owner of the property to maximize the financial return and size of what they want to put on there. This doesn't give them the right to do it.
That's correct. Under a discretionary process, there isn't the presumption that you're allowed to achieve the maximums. And that's typically not an issue legally. Now, with housing projects in recent years, that has become more of an issue because the states intervened. It used to be that you could not go into a project with that presumption about housing either, but that's changed. But as it pertains to commercial and a discretionary process, and as long as the criteria, what the design that we're looking for is clear, and the commission's making decisions based on that, it would be discretionary, and we're not obligated to allow the absolute maximum. And we may, as we're discussing it, we may want to include some language that addresses that more specifically so that a developer knows what to expect when they're applying for a project.
That would be great. When we get toward the end, if we can circle back on all that, that'd be wonderful. I'm done. Thank you.
I have one question. I'll call you in a second. But with regard to the floor height, obviously they're talking the ground floor to be more attractive for a retail space, but at 12 feet. But if you're, is the council in their referral back to us imagining all floors will be minimum 12 feet or higher? Up to the third floor? Because I know we have this 30-foot, 6-foot, or 45-foot height max, but is it going to be 12, 12, 12, in other words, or will the upper floors potentially be a smaller height?
It would only be the ground floor that has that requirement, and we decided to prescribe the 12 feet rather than making it a guideline, because that's a minimum that we would like to see on the ground floor. And this is based on other standards, other guidelines and development standards that we've reviewed that other cities are using that we think that would work. But the upper floors, there's no required ceiling height for those beyond what the building code requires.
Right. Yeah, because I know there was some talk about making these more constructing or zoning in a way to make it attractive for a developer to build on it. But if you did 12, 12, 12, it's more expensive because there's a lot of commercial changes you have to do in the actual engineering of the building that might make it more cost prohibitive in that case. So, with that in mind, I'm just had a question with that. And the second part is, I know the zoning we're talking about is applicable for the Artesian aviation corridor. That's assuming that both areas are identical and with the requirements we're going to put in there. The only thing I was thinking about as I was driving down the aviation the other day, the aviation is the totally different character than Artesia Boulevard. Artesia Boulevard is a dead straight and people typically go 35, 45 miles an hour down it. Aviation is quite windy. I'm just wondering if that height max makes sense over there as much as it does in Artesia. And is that something that we can talk about, or if it's something that we have to do an all or nothing for the whole area?
No, I think it could certainly be split up, and you're right, the character of the two corridors, the two streets is a little different. And in meeting with the council on this, I don't know if they were completely fixed on the 45 feet. It was discussed a little bit. They wanted to ensure that there was flexibility in design, that we didn't want that to hold back design at the same, and also want to keep it as an incentive to redevelopment. At the same time, I don't know if the council was completely locked in on the 45 feet. And I think there could be some openness to taking a closer look at that and whether it makes sense across the entire corridor, or if it makes sense to maybe split them up and recommend something different. But that's the commission's role, is to discuss these things and to make a recommendation to council and to work with staff on helping realize those recommendations.
Yeah, I was just curious. I wanted to see if that was within our purview to at least look at those maybe as slightly different, because aviation has a lot of unique challenges compared to Artesia Boulevard, which would be different. And there's also a lot more elevations and heights and such. So having higher buildings looking into, you might be almost looking at someone's bedroom window, potentially, versus on Artesia, it might not as likely in some of those areas. And also sound propagation, other things like that will be different, than it would be on Artesia Boulevard, perhaps. And I'm sorry, Commissioner Conroy, please go ahead.
Hi. Okay, our focus should be ensuring the amendments align with the adopted ACAP vision without unintentionally increasing development intensity or eroding compatibility with the adjacent residential neighborhoods as well. If the changes modernize standards and support corridor activation in a controlled way that's consistent with ACAP's revitalization goals. If they materially expand intensity or introduce higher impact uses, we need to clearly understand the cumulative implications. And to your point, as far as if we have, or rather, I'll just ask, has staff looked at what the cumulative effect would be if we've got multiple parcels, if not many or most of the parcels developing to the maximum intensity is allowed per the amendment?
Well, the EIR addresses the environmental cumulative effect of the 1.5 floor area ratio. Mm-hmm. It's not as nuanced as looking at the height limit. I guess maybe it would be the visual of that. We also have the Article 27 traffic analysis that will be coming forward prior to adoption. So that's when this is taken to a vote, there's an analysis on the level of service impacts to the intersections that would be created through these land use changes. So between those documents, those will disclose the impacts. I will say that we are working on getting some photo simulations done that would show what some of these buildings might look like on Artesia and Aviation, just to help better visualize it. But in terms of beyond that, I should say that's the extent of how the impacts have been evaluated.
We're still relying on the prior program FEIR, right? And that would be appropriate here. How would these changes, as amended, avoid creating new, reasonably foreseeable environmental impacts?
Well, the EIR does address that it's identified through the floor area increase and the anticipated increase in building envelope that would come with that. It's been a while since I reviewed this, since we had the EIR in front of us, and maybe as Sean remembers, if it addressed like potential visual impacts, there's certain set criteria that the EIR is statutorily required to address. I don't recall off the top of my head what it said specifically about Artesia and Aviation. I don't know if you do, Sean.
I don't either, but it did address and incorporate the build out at 1.5 FAR and assumed increased intensity with development standards as well. I think visual resources, they're in their planning and land use impacts are incorporated into the final environmental impact report. Vehicle miles traveled analysis is incorporated into that document. So it has been, and it's something, we can take a look at again, specifically to see how if there's any degree of localized impacts that are outlined specifically for the 1.5. But it does address the cumulative for the entire corridor in kind of in a general sense. And again, and we look also at the build out methodology as well. So it's, to look at it as if every parcel were to build to this standard is not what an environmental impact report is going to look at. There's a build out methodology. So there's assumptions with respect to what's actually going to get built over the 20 to 30 year horizon of the general plan. So we could look at that build out methodology, which is in the final environmental impact report, and have a better sense of what was really covered in that document with respect to this development. So that's something we could come back to the
And over
commission.
time, as you have potentially multiple parcels making use of the full build out, is that where an AUP may be required?
And yes, project-specific potential impacts at the time of future development would also be considered. We'd have to make a judgment as to whether or not the program EIR covered all the particular aspects of a future project. And we would, and again, remember, a new development that comes in, it's going to come to this body.
Would it though, because an AUP is discretionary,
Well,
and per the amendment, it wouldn't come in front of this commission unless there was
I
appeal.
think you're referring to the roof deck?
Yeah, the rooftop dining has a
That's
recommendation.
specific
to the-
That's right, but this would
Okay.
require
Okay.
conditional use permit and design review.
And certainly a planning commission design review. So when that future project is submitted, it would come here to this body.
I think that same question. So these are CUPs that would have to happen. It's not administratively decided that they can go 45 feet or whatnot.
Correct.
You're saying that relates to the roof deck?
No. I'm saying it reverts to these standards. So a project comes in and they're complying with these development standards. We have the procedures section of the municipal code that says new commercial development on a lot, I think greater than 10,000 square feet, or addition of more than 1,000 square feet of commercial development requires a planning commission design review.
So it automatically comes.
So it would come here.
Okay. And do these proposed changes result in the reduction of required park or open space?
No.
I thought there was a thing on the slide, the one right before the design standards slide that mentioned that.
So that's the
What is that?
required open space on
Oh,
the
the
property, not like public open space, but the requirement for basically a gap or open space on the property.
Correct.
Private property. So that's the proposal is to eliminate that requirement in order to achieve the higher FAR allowances. There are still setback requirements, which would preserve open space, but.
Right. But it doesn't reduce the open space within.
Yes, 10%,
Huh? It does.
10%.
Yeah.
Public open space.
Yeah, it's usable, what's the term here? I'll look at the section. Usable public open space within the project. It's a requirement that we have for our mixed-use developments where a certain percentage of the FAR is required to then be developed as some kind of a plaza or, area that it's least, it has to be at least 10 feet wide and accessible to the public. However, the council has directed that component in order to accommodate greater intensity of development, which will then further incentivize revitalization, that would be taken away, removed.
All right, that's all I have.
Yeah.
Sure, Hazeltine.
So APAC's been in front of us a lot. And
3 or 4 times, right?
don't forget, you guys won an award on this. Now, I'm thinking a lot of what you won your award on is gone. Okay, so first off, we're talking about just about tripling the current FAR. So we've gone from 0.5 to 0.6, which this commission was okay. We, this year or last year, at the end of last year, eliminated parking, the requirement for parking. So all of those empty lots were going to be gone. It seems like this is just, what do we have objectively that says that we need to triple the FAR on this area? This morning I was in Playa Vista and I was standing next to a 3+ story building, where those are. That is really, really tall. And I'm really concerned, you know, we all want revitalization. I mean, we were excited about the award that we won. But this is sounding like, I mean, the pictures that you showed were kind of like, really, you showed Montecito and you showed these pictures that I'm like, really? That's what we won an award for? You know, I mean, some of the things that we talked about when we talked about bike racks and we talked about walking and sitting and all of that, now eliminating the 10%, that's pretty huge of open space, because we had envisioned this walkable, sitting neighborhood where people would come out from around the block, they'd go have a cup of coffee with their dog, they'd sit there. They've eliminated that requirement. So basically they're making a tunnel down Artesia of 45 feet that doesn't include the elevator now. So now we're even taller than that. Is that a walkable? I mean, I'm trying to think, you know, there is a question here. Give me a city like that that's walkable. I mean, our gem is Riviera. We love that. It's kind of a gem for us. Where is a city that looks like that? Like this, that we're supposed to be okay with?
On a corridor like Artesia.
On Artesia.
Well, I think that there was the rendering or the photo from Dana Point. That's a similar development standard.
Do we know the FAR on that?
I don't know if we have the FAR on that.
And I hate to be a stickler, you guys, but I've asked many times, can we just know the FAR on all those Sketcher buildings that have gone on there? We see them I drive past those every day. I know what those look like. I know how far they are off the sidewalk. They're 2 floors with one under. When there's a hill, there's a little bit of parking we can see. I get that. And what is that FAR? Okay, so now we're going to go another floor plus a rooftop deck. We're creating a tunnel. And, you know, if the people agree with that and they think that's great, but to call that like this walkable gem is just, I'm not sure that that's what we're, you know, I'm disappointed. I was really liking the award we won, you know.
No, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, and when it comes to walkable, and that's a subjective term, it's something that's it's very prominent in urban design. I wouldn't say that's completely.
It's really prominent in this package we got.
So I wouldn't say that's completely dependent on the building height. I think what makes an area walkable is the width of the sidewalks, the amenities and furniture would be out on the sidewalks, the having glazing and tall ceilings for the commercial spaces, so they're engaging. I think, yeah, having courtyards. I have been in areas and where it's buildings that are 4 or 5 stories, and it still feels very walkable. So I'm from the Santa Cruz area, and their Main Street there is that type of development. When it comes to the kind of tunneling effect, I think that's somewhat dependent on the street width. If you had a very narrow street, you would, I think, feel like you're in a bit of a canyon, but the fact that this right-of-way is 100 feet wide does allow for some additional height without feeling like you're channeled in. But at the same time, I understand your concerns and that, and especially if, you know, all the properties were developed that way.
I'm thinking of successful Pier Avenue, successful Manhattan Beach downtown. You know, Riviera's 1 and 2 floors. You showed a picture of a 3-floor, but that's like standalone. That's off the side, and nothing else is like that really until you get back by Trader Joe's. There's a couple, but it just seems that this number was thrown out, 1.5, and we've been asking to see what that looks like for years now. And what does that look like? I know what Skechers looks like. Can you just give me the FAR on that? I mean, it's like, make a call, guys.
I think have them through it.
I will let you do that.
Okay.
Let's call Skechers and find out.
Thank you. While we're discussing it, is there any way we can connect Commissioner Gaddis's?
Do you have the ability to put up on the presentation thing a Google Earth or a Google of Avenue I, north side of Avenue I between Pacific Coast Highway and Catalina.
We do.
That's
We'd have to,
Those are mixed use.
It's just a visual, that's all. I mean, good or bad, I'm not advocating anything. I just,
Right,
we
take a look
actually
at it.
do have an example of this kind of,
Currently,
yeah, which I don't know the precise height, but it certainly appears to be 3 floors.
yeah, and we did have a photograph of the 1611 Catalina. That's a 3-story. That's a
Yeah,
45
if you zoom in on
foot plus.
Avenue I down in the Riviera Village,
take west.
I think this will give us a visual.
Yeah, because there's all those mixed-use buildings there too with that Rex
Yeah, so
Steakhouse.
yeah, if you just zoom in on there, yeah, so east of Catalina and west, yeah, just move it over those buildings right there. If you just zoom in on those at the north side of the street and then tilt it back in a 3-dimensional manner. This is sort of what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's where Rex is, I think, around there.
And then the next couple buildings down too, especially that red one there and the one next to it. That's basically what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Correct, and I would say those buildings that are a little bit more beyond the brown and the tanman on the end there, yeah, those are a little bit taller.
Yeah, so just to give you an idea, yeah, they don't have the 3rd floor setback.
Correct.
But one of them does, yeah.
So that's
And do you know the width of that street? Is that similar to Artesia?
No,
No, that's much narrower.
It's about half the size, if that, yeah.
I would argue the smaller street allows for more pedestrian friendly. You can't really just walk across Artesia with the traffic flying by at 45 miles.
Four lanes to dodge.
Okay, so what I like about this is that there's a lot of cutbacks, there's a lot of cut in, there's.
Yeah, if you could move down a little bit
If
toward the
you
brown
look at
building,
what you
that's got the
guys
setback.
put, if you look at what you put in your program tonight in the packet or your slideshow.
Presentation.
That's pretty scary. I mean, the drawing one that you have, the rendering where it's just cut back in 5 feet, that's literally, when you look at 1st and 2nd floor, I mean, if you look at the one right here, the white one on the left with the white, I mean, that's kind of a cute building, but it's set back. Every floor is set back, right? And, but if you look at what you put in your packet, so how do we write this in that you know, maybe that's okay. We get that height in there, but we get each floor set back. It makes it interesting. Can you go back to your packet where you're showing the setback? I mean, if you envision 5 buildings in a row that look like that, that is scary.
Well, not to jump in, but each one is reviewed independently, with the placement of what is there now and right?
It is. I think the key moving forward, especially since it would be a discretionary process reviewed by the Planning Commission and potentially council, is that the standards really help with that decision-making process, help support it. So if that's what we're looking to achieve in terms of building design, maybe the city is, you know, it makes sense to have a 3-story taller building, but it has to meet certain requirements. I think that's something that we could codify in terms of step setbacks and be a little more specific about the breaks and wall plane. That's one reason guidelines are, one of the benefits of guidelines is you can actually have like images, examples, photographic examples, and it doesn't really fit into a code.
Right.
But we could have some type of appendix or something that has examples of the type of design that we're looking for that is not part of the code, but if it's referenced. So those are a few ideas, but I think you can codify in order to get the design that we're looking for to achieve that.
Is there a way to figure out, for example, if you do have all of these things, right? This FAR could be less than 1.5. So what is the FAR on that? I mean, what did we end up with?
These here, so these are under our mixed use standards, right?
Use.
And they have exactly what Mark's describing. There's the second story sets back a little bit more than the third a little bit more. And the FAR max is 1.5.
The max is 1.5. And then we don't really know, though, what, for example, the building on the left-hand side of that picture, what that would be.
Yeah, they're close to that. Those are fairly recent developments, and
Yeah, they are.
I don't know exactly what those FARs are, but they're pushing to that.
Okay. So we know how we would word that in our suggestion to city council, that it looks more like this and less like your block.
Yeah, I mean.
This, not this.
Oh, that was just terrible.
And
It
what
made
you're
me really
describing is
sad
kind
for
of-
North Redondo.
It's not really to scale that 100 feet, I don't think, and so it makes it look worse. It shows.
Well, what looks bad is first, second floor is a wall.
Sure.
And then third is cut in,
It's
you know,
monolithic,
and
yeah.
so the first and second are just a wall.
Maybe we have second and third floor setbacks?
Yeah, and that could be worked into your recommendation, and it could mirror, and essentially what you're describing is our mixed-use zoning standard, which allows a height up to, I think, like 38 feet, but it can go to 45 with the
Accommodate
planning
the
commission's
elevator?
approval. What's that?
Is that to accommodate the elevator or?
No, the elevator's an additional allowance, but it's only allowed by code to be 4 feet above the maximum height. So we run into, that becomes an issue if you need roof access with the elevator, because you can't do that in 4 feet.
Right.
So, and again, though, the elevator shaft is pretty, that can be set back,
Yeah, the back of the property.
an additional amount, and it's a very narrow silhouette, if you will.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I know there's
Commissioner
other
Knight.
people.
Yeah, just a couple of questions here. One, so we're talking, this is commercial zones. This is not mixed use. There's no housing, no residential. It's all business. Okay. And are you getting requests to revitalize these? Because if they tear down something, then there would be a new building there. Then they could go by these rules, right? So any business there could then do that. Are you getting any kind of feedback from applications you're getting of people doing that? I'm just trying to get do you have some gauge on the interest of developers to come in here? Or are we just hoping on faith that if we do this, then they'll start coming?
So there is some feedback we've received on this. We did a survey of the property owners along Artesian Aviation. I believe we got about 20-something responses, maybe it was 30. But the property owners did indicate that if the development regulations were relaxed, they would consider redeveloping the property. They see that as a barrier. The city's also been working with real estate professionals who think that this would help incentivize some redevelopment of Artesian Aviation. So we've received that. And in fact, city council contracted with a firm. It's working on behalf of the city with a focus on this area. So it's based on the best information we have at this point. I will say that the council's intent is to look for ways to incentivize redevelopments through, and the main way the city can control that is through the development regulations. But I think it's been, in the meetings of the city council, it's been pretty clear that on this matter and parking, that if it ends up not working well, if there ends up being problems with it, it's always something that we can pull back. And in fact, there is even a requirement with the parking to have a scheduled check-in annually of how it's working, how the impacts are. There could be something similar to this. One of the benefits, this area is not in the coastal zone, so if the city decides to make an amendment to the zoning code, it's something that we can do relatively quickly. So it's not necessarily set in stone. But at this point, the council would like to be bold with trying to promote some investment in these properties. And this is the direction that they've provided staff to go with it. That said, the Planning Commission certainly has input on the process, and it seems like, just based on the discussion so far, it's working towards probably a better outcome in terms of code amendments. I think it's on the right track, but that's kind of just the context of it.
Yeah, the last point I have is that I do like much better those setbacks, all 3 levels, than these boxes. So my 2 cents there.
Commissioner Boswell.
All I'm seeing is situations like, well, you ask a property owner, would you prefer that we give you a opportunity to have a larger building? And I'm surprised anybody wouldn't say, oh, no, not that. So of course, they're all going to say yes. And if you ask real estate people, what's going to sell better? They're going to say bigger, better, prettier. You didn't give them the option of, would you rather have a opportunity to build a larger building or a cooler building? A really nice, beautiful piece of architecture, 2 stories that people will be dying to go to just to see what the heck is in there. You didn't give them that option. You just said, do you want it bigger or not? Well, they don't have to make it bigger, but if you allow them to, of course they're going to say yes. I think it's basically asking the question to get the answer that you're hoping to have, so that you can then go on and do whatever else you want to do. Like this 12-foot ground floor thing. As far as I've heard so far, it's because other cities have done it and because it's expected to attract more retail, which is dying, okay? If you're depending on retail to go on those first floors on that long stretch of road, you're not going to get enough retail. And if you do, you're going to sink the Galleria, okay? It just seems like, do we really need 12 feet if we're conflicted about 60 feet? Do we really need each floor to be 12? Probably not. And on the point of the top floor and this 45 or 60 foot height limit, is it possible to only allow that additional height if there's certain type of economic or business activity on that top floor? The example would be the rooftop dining. If you want to have rooftop dining, we'll let you have another floor. That would encourage restaurants and fine dining and cool dining, as opposed to Chick-fil-A and the hookah hut, whatever they're eating in there. So it just seems like there's already an agenda and we're being fed information that's been shoehorned to meet that agenda. I find it very disingenuous, and I don't find it at all in the interest of the people of Redondo. What I find that is in the interest of a planning department that already knows what it wants to do. So when we get to actually discussing, let's talk about what it is that the Planning Commission can do to make recommendations, to make Artesia and aviation the kind of places where people in Redondo and the surrounding areas will want to go to, as opposed to what some real estate guy thinks he can sell. Was there any other reason for the ground floor to be 12 feet other than X number of other cities have done it, and perhaps it'll attract more retail or be more attractive to retail?
Yeah, we didn't say the reason was that it'd be attractive to retail. So the reason is because it makes it more pedestrian oriented and it puts more emphasis on the commercial ground level use, whereas a project like Montecito is completely dominated by the upper residential stories, and the commercial on the ground level is very secondary. So it wasn't intended
with
to.
All these mixed use places.
It wasn't intended to attract retail
for the ground floor. If you're walking down Artesia and the ground floor is 12 feet and you're 6 feet, are you really noticing that it's 2 feet higher? You're not even looking. I say that as an unsupportable assumption. I say it's completely unsupportable, especially since you're probably going to have service businesses moving in there, if anyone moves in there at all. And then they're going to be saying, geez, what's it going to cost to heat and cool that extra space that we're not using? You know, you've got other factors that mean this building will be more attractive if the utilities are less expensive. We haven't given you this huge empty space that you now have to constantly be blowing the hot air back down. Okay, you have opportunities to create cool buildings, beautiful buildings. But all we're hearing about is bigger buildings and, oh, well, we step them back a little bit and they'll look nice. This does not look nice to me. I mean, most of it doesn't. This conglomeration of things over the Rex looks kind of interesting, but the rest of it just looks like somebody stole something from Manhattan Beach. So let's try to have something that the people of Redondo Beach want to go to. Okay, and I don't see that it's been presented in any respect.
Okay, Commissioner Young, you had a question.
I think my favorite part about the whole presentation was the 70% open windows on the front. As somebody who lives near or directly behind an area that has the potential for large building, I would like to see additional setback on the back sides of the buildings where it is residential facing. But when all is said and done, I feel like we haven't had a lot of time for development to happen, and it feels like we're pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and it's just going to get out of hand before we know what's happening. That's my hesitation at this point. I would like to motion to open public comment.
Very good.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Can we get a motion to open to public comment?
Yeah.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any cards for Jamal for public comment? I believe there's a Teresa Mitchell in the audience. Come on down, Teresa. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners and staff. I'm a District 4 resident. I live very close to this commercial district, just a couple hundred feet, so I'm directly impacted by it. But I also have 2 degrees in planning, a bachelor's and a master's, and 30 years in development. So I'm kind of speaking from as a resident, as a academic, and also as a professional. And I really appreciate that the ACAP implementation is starting. And I do think there's a good framework here, but I have a couple concerns. As Chairperson Craig has mentioned, the aviation corridor and the Artesia corridor are very different profiles. The lot sizes on Artesia are 50 by 100, and it's a 100-foot right-of-way. The lot sizes on Artesia are 25 by 90, and it's a 50-foot right-of-way. Aviation Boulevard has multifamily. Artesia Boulevard has multifamily right behind it. Aviation Boulevard has single family. So I think and these are both separate special planning areas, and I think it would be prudent to address these separately, because it seems like the focus is on the Artesia Boulevard, and then it's being applied to aviation. And if we could spend some time looking at the aviation portion of it differently, especially with the curb and with the different residents. I did send in an email to the clerk for the blue folder earlier today, but it looks like only the attachments got sent, but not the text. So I'm going to be kind of quick on this. Hopefully we can. The FAR, when I did the calculations, and it is in the blue folder, it lends to, if you're using the full footprint within the setbacks, it lends to a 2-story building, not a 3-story, not a 4-story. And a 45-foot height limit from a development standpoint is a 4-story building. It's the way the building materials on low-rise construction, it's usually 10 to 12 feet on the first floor, and then 10 feet for the subsequent floors. So in order to use that full FAR, you don't need 45 feet. The existing 30-foot or a 36-foot height limit, which is comparable to what Hermosa downtown area and Manhattan Beach downtown area, I think is sufficient instead of the 45 feet. 2 other quick points is I think if we could spend more time looking at encroachments and like restricting encroachments into the setback where people are walking. Because what happens is, at least on Aviation Boulevard, is that you have a 5-foot setback, but then you have a big planter, so now you have a very narrow street. Or there's, in front of the Montecito, there's rails or mechanical equipment that blocks the entrances to the retail space.
Motion to extend.
Second?
All in
Thank
favor?
you.
Aye.
Motion extend?
So I think spending some time looking at let the encroachments and that sidewalk usage is really important. It's one thing to have a couple tables. It's another thing to prohibit somebody walking up to the entrance. And I think we already have narrow sidewalks there. There's only about 5 foot, where some of the landscaping could go into the parkway and it becomes an amenity and a buffer for the project instead of a barrier of entry to the retail or restaurant space. And then the last point I'd like to make is, I saw that you eliminated the open public space. I mean, North Redondo's generally park poor. And I think that there's been a lot of public comment even today and in other cases. And it makes sense if somebody's just developing 1 or 2 lots, that you wouldn't necessarily need public open space, but we have some very big, like in excess of 1 acre parcels for where the former Big Lots was, where the Rite Aid was, grocery outlet, the post office. These are all in excess of 1 acre parcels. So eliminating that 10% open space and just bulking it out with a full building is something that's kind of concerning. So, because those will get redevelopment, they don't have to have any parking requirements, and then we're again in like a concrete jungle. So if you could kind of consider those as well. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure. Can you?
Teresa, can I ask you a question? So can you clarify what you said? You said that, okay, so basically the 1.5 FAR and the stories don't mash up, right? Is that what you said? So a 4-story or a 3-story building would be a FAR closer to, without parking, which they're not required to do anymore, would be closer to.
Yeah, so one of the attachments in the blue folder, I did a bulking analysis of if you were going to build on the allowable footprint within this, including the setback, so there's a 5-foot setback in the front and a 20-foot setback, then how many stories could you build with a 1.5?
Yes.
And in both cases, on Aviation, it takes like it's like 2.1 stories or 2.2. Okay. On Artesia, it's 1.8 stories. So if you're actually going to use that full, you would never get above 2 stories unless, and my concern with that is that, and 2 stories is a 30-foot to a 36-foot building, like residential is 30-foot and some of the smaller commercials 30-foot. If you want some kind of articulation or more interesting, then maybe 36 feet, but definitely not 45 feet. I mean, the Pearl PCH that came last time is a 45-foot, it's a 4-story building. So my concern is, as some of the other examples, is that if you have that additional height, what ends up happening is that the ground floor commercial, which is the most valuable to the residents, to the city, to the owners, ends up being used for something like, let's put parking underneath. And there are examples, a lot of examples of that, is that they use the ground floor for parking, and then they rent it out to open space. And even though this is a commercial district, the state laws allow this to be housing or mixed use. And so that's another concern is that if we're going to allow these by right standards of a 45-foot building, that we lose all of our commercial, which is what we want as residents. We want to be able to go walk somewhere. So you see a lot of buildings that have ground floor parking and then 3 stories of housing, and that's not what we want to do.
Right.
And so that's where I think if we, a 1 FAR, if we contain that building envelope, is something that fits into the character of the neighborhood. There's 2-story buildings right behind it. I mean, the tall and skinny are about 30 feet. But when you get to that higher height, and then you add in, that's 4 stories, and then you add in, because realistically, housing is what is more economically viable, and it's more likely to get built there with the state laws. I mean, as much as I want to see it all commercial, People aren't renting office spaces, they're buying houses. And so I think that's something that we need to be conscientious of, is that by adding that 45-foot, that's one more concession that's not being allowed. So we really want to prioritize that ground floor commercial.
Okay.
Question for you, would limiting it to 3 stories, would that solve the problem or not solve the problem?
I mean, I think like the FAR goes to 2-story, like it barely gets to 2 stories. So going to 3 stories is fine, but why do we need what's happening on the 3rd story, right? Like the FAR is not going to get bigger. So what's likely to happen is the usable space moves up, and then the ground floor gets used for something that's not not public facing. It's not commercial. It's not a restaurant. It's not a retail. Most likely it's going to be parking, because underground parking is expensive, but ground level parking, and there's 4 examples of it on aviation already, with the point when there was a 0.5 FAR, they put parking underneath, and then they put the office above. There's the dentist office. I think there are 3 medical buildings. And so those are also in the blue folder as expensive, So that's my concern, is that the height limit just makes the building envelope big enough that we're not getting the valuable use that we want out of the commercial district, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so that's,
We still have public comment
Okay.
going on. So, anyone else wish to speak on the public? Please come on down and say your name.
Welcome to commission meetings.
Yeah, the short ones always end up being long.
Zane's not here, so we're okay.
He's watching you, though.
Gosh, you guys have a challenging job,
please state your
whatever
name
you
for the
want
record,
to
by
call it.
the way.
Steve Haig again. Having been a longtime resident, the planning commissioner of Boswell, very refreshing. Thank you. Some places in South Redondo are cool. Places in North Redondo on Artesia aren't cool. And if you think you're going to develop that in a 30-year plan, a 10-year plan, I wish you luck. One thing that, as I read some of the things, because the Artesia thing has been going on for a long, long time. And it's like salad, just move it around, it changes, which is today, tomorrow, COVID hit, are restaurants still in business? Do they want to expand? Was there a crime 2 weeks ago that nobody knows about on Artesia? Yes, yes, yes. I'm 1 block off Artesia, and I will tell you, I have noise concerns. You're gonna, the first thing when you go up high, that'll be a rental. Goodbye, I'm gone immediately. I will not spend $1 more in Redondo if you do that to Artesia. That is not, I'll say this is quality of life, folks. How are you improving it? Quality of life, cool. Where do you want to go? You have wind like today, you're going to kill somebody with stuff coming off 2nd floor dining, 3rd floor dining. I don't care where it is. It's not contained like Hermosa Ave and some of the areas. You're having a corridor. For heaven's sakes, we put pine trees down the center of Artesia, right? I don't know if anybody here remembers that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And sand.
They told us there were no pine cones. Guess what? There's a whole lot of pine cones. Anybody drive real nice cars, Ferraris or other things? You hit a falling pine cone at 40 miles an hour, guess what? I don't know if that happens on mine. I think I'm going to try and sue the city. You got pockets, right? Why not? So things that impact us today, I'll give you another example. There's parking, I don't know what you call them, along Artesia. We don't have parking issues. Guess what? I got a lot of parking issues. The businesses, when they go into overflow, they go next street over. The dogs, for heaven's sakes, we have green lawns. Guess where they come? I've never seen so many dogs. They come off of those, the trash cans, the parking, the street off. You don't see in your reports.
Time.
Motion to extend.
Second?
And I will say you're degrading off Artesia with some of these concepts, our quality of life. Please don't do that. If you live there, you'll understand some things. And don't forget, you have the rude Amazon drivers, the Ubers, and all the other things that come in. Food delivery is an example. They come and go. They park in our driveways. They impede people. They block in the middle of the street. They don't care. They're not professional drivers. It's degrading our current quality of life. Please don't make it worse. And as far as the dogs, it's absurd, folks. I don't know, these big dogs, why people have them in apartments and condos, and they love green grass. Do we have much green grass? Or do these people actually clean up after themselves? So I did want to express I don't want high dining on Artesia. If you got to view your Hennessy's, that's cool. People are going to go there. They're going to enjoy it. Artesia, what am I going to look at? Lucky Automotive? How about if we look at today? I mentioned, maybe I didn't, the restaurant, Yanagi. I was told that last year in a meeting, one of Zane's meetings, that dirt lot on the corner's only been within 6 months. This was after the meeting, just chit chat with a couple ladies, and I was like, wow, I'm losing it. That's only been 6 months. After I called them, it was 4 years. We can't take care of what we currently have. And if anybody wants to drive, I'll drive them. If anybody wants to walk or bike, I'll do it with them. I'll help you clean Artesia. Give me a high pressure sprayer. I have property. I can spray, I can clean, I can prime, I can paint, and it'll look wonderful. No charge to anyone.
I'm sorry, but thank you very much. Your time's up, but I really appreciate you coming down.
Okay.
Thank you. I see another speaker coming.
That solves the cost of cleaning Artesia.
Good evening again. Sheila Lamb, District 4, 35-year resident of Redondo Beach. I want to speak on the proposal that's being mentioned this evening along Artesia Boulevard. This may look like a technical zoning adjustment, but it is actually a structural decision about the future form of the entire corridor. This is not one project. This is a decision about what Artesia Boulevard becomes for the next generation. First, process matters. Changing the FAR and height corridor wide changes the physical DNA of the city. Residents deserve a chance to weigh in on that future before it happens. This is the kind of decision that calls for corridor visioning process, a public charrette or design workshop where people can see visual options, 2 stories versus 3 stories, step backs, shadows, sidewalk scale, and what this actually feels like at a street level. We owe it to our residents. We are not asking whether development should happen. We are asking what kind of place we are creating. If we do this without public visioning, we are designing Artesia by default, not by intention. Second, cumulative impacts matter. Individually, each policy change may sound reasonable, but together they stack. Increased FAR, increased height to 45 feet, rooftop dining allowances, and future bonuses, not to mention the state's 2011 that can turn this into housing, these don't operate in isolation. Together, they function as a de facto 4-story entitlement along a major corridor. That's not a moral judgment, it's a planning reality. Before approving any one piece, we should ask for a cumulative build-out model. What does Artesia Boulevard look like if all these entitlements are fully used? What is the scale, the shadow, the traffic, the noise, the parking demand, not as individual units here, but as a cumulative whole? Planning should evaluate the combined effect, not just each individual policy in a vacuum. And third, consistency matters. If Artesia is going to grow taller and more intense, then
Motion
we
to
owe the
extend.
community.
Second. All in favor? Please continue.
Thank you. We owe the community a coherent, predictable street form. Without corridor standards, what we get is not planning, we get parcel by parcel opportunism. One building tall, one short, one with a rooftop activity, one with blank walls, no rhythm, no identity, no pedestrian coherence. If we increase intensity, we should also adopt corridor-wide design standards, street wall height, step backs above 2 stories, which we just talked about, ground floor activation, tree canopy, sidewalk width, but speak of it as an entire cohesive whole, not just individual units of standards. So my request is simple and constructive. Before approving corridor-wide increases in FAR and height on Artesia Boulevard, please pause for a public corridor visioning process so residents can help shape the future of this place. Require a community build-out analysis so we can see what these policies do together, not separately, and pair any increase in intensity with clear corridor design standards so Artesia evolves coherently and predictably, not dependent on what's in the budget for that year. This is not about stopping growth, it's about guiding growth with intention, not letting it happen by default. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mhm. Are they? Are there any speakers online, Jamal?
We don't have any e-speakers that would like to speak on this topic.
Okay. Are there any e-comments that?
No e-comments.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So motion to close the public comment. Any other comments from any commissioners? Questions?
Chair, I would like to address some of the public comments.
Sure, go ahead.
Jamal, could you share my screen?
Is that your screen or that's? Okay.
Screen in the back.
That's the third one. The third one. All right. This is the exhibit that was submitted by Ms. Mitchell. I appreciate your comments on the code amendments. I do see it a little differently though. So this exhibit shows there being a 5-foot and 20-foot rear setback. It assumes that basically the first level is almost the same size as the second. It doesn't include the 5-foot side setbacks required. But then also we do anticipate that with these projects, yes, there is no city-imposed parking requirement, but we are likely going to see projects develop with parking, and it's required to be at the back. So we are anticipating that there will be a drive aisle leading to parking at the rear. It's going to take up some of the ground of the site. So that was taken into consideration with this. We're not assuming that on most of these sites, they will not be providing any parking, at least for a new development. Also, under this, what's shown on this exhibit, it does not account for if the applicants did opt to provide like a courtyard or some type of outdoor space on the property, which they may very well. So for that reason, that's why the 3 stories is recommended, to provide the applicant, the developer, with more flexibility. And it's not assuming that they're going to build property line to property line 2 stories. It's to provide, it's actually so they could have a smaller building footprint and go more vertically than horizontally. I do want to address the comment about the garages on the first level. So there is a requirement in the standards that state that the storefronts needs to be designed as or the frontage of the building facing the street needs to be designed as a storefront. It should be at grade level, meaning that you can't have the storefront up above a first level parking garage. We could look to make that more mandatory and a little less optional, because I think it says should in there. But I do want to note that that is addressed. And sorry, I thought there was another point, but I guess I do just want to go back to the root of this and the 1.5 floor area ratio. This is something that was directed by the city council to point as the land use element was being reviewed several years ago. It got incorporated into the draft document, so we're working with that baseline, and these development standards are looking to express that 1.5 FAR. But there is a lot of nuance to this and options and ways to ensure we get high quality design, and that's what we're seeking in these conversations.
Director Weiner, are there, I guess I'm confused, are there setback requirements in the proposed zoning that we're looking at?
There are. There's a 5-foot side setback, yes, and a 20-foot rear when it abuts residential, which is most of Artesia.
And you said that's for parking?
No, it's just a 20-foot setback for the
Buffer.
From the back.
Buffer zone,
yeah,
for the residential.
Yes.
What was it you said about like a parking corridor or something?
Well, and based on speaking with prospective developers, realtors about revitalization, it does seem likely that in most cases they are going to opt to provide on-site parking. It just may not be at the standard that the city is requiring. So we are anticipating that they likely will provide parking. You may recall from the parking ordinance, it's essentially required to be at the rear. There are some exceptions where it can be at the front if they meet certain criteria, but that ordinance directs it towards the rear of the property, and this accounts for the likelihood that we will see parking on these project sites.
Is that past the 20-foot buffer, or would that be included within the 20-foot buffer?
I believe that parking could be in the 20-foot buffer. It would just be the building that needs to meet the 20 feet.
That's correct, yes.
So that's the point I was making. So then all of these residences could likely have cars coming and going right on the other side of their property line.
If there's parking at the rear of the property, yes.
Director White, I'm just confused again, because on the site, we were talking about side setbacks. I'm just reading from what I'm seeing from in the attachment. It says, there shall be a minimum side setback of 5 feet, the full length of the lot on the street side of a corner or reverse corner lot. And it says, no side setback shall be required along the interior lot lines.
Okay, well, yeah, in that case, I meant the street side of it. But the point being, aside from the 5-foot setback that would apply on the corner sites, is that we do anticipate that more of the land is going to be devoted to other things than just building.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Are there any questions? Commissioner Hazeltine?
Yeah, I would really like to make sure that we talk a little bit more about that elimination of the 10% requirement for open space. That really, I think, is so important to keep in there and makes it neighbor friendly. I don't know, when we talked about it over the last 5 years, 4 years, whatever, that was kind of a really nice thing, and I'm not sure why that was taken out. That's disappointing. The other thing is that you mentioned some screening on the backside. How would we could do vegetation on the backside between the residents and the buildings, right, on that 20-foot setback. But it mentioned screening. What would that be? I don't know what that looks like.
You have an idea?
You mentioned some screening.
Is that proposed in the
for the resident, so there's screening between the residential and the commercial in the packet. It mentioned a few times.
What we'll typically do, if you recall the Grub House development,
Right.
where we really intensified the landscaping along that, and I think we allowed a higher wall in that case.
Yeah.
But those are typically what we try to do, and we're really focused on the structure orienting everything to Artesia, and so it's kind of the back end where you're not going to have as much activity.
Right. So I think we need to be real specific about that back, between the commercial and the residential on the backside. So every project that's come in front of us from those two streets, we've made sure that they put a hedge screening trees up there. So I think if we could just have that in there. Grubhub ended up putting a hedge in the back, or they're going to put a hedge in the back. So if we could, and one of the auto places, the same thing. So if we could just be more specific, the screen, I didn't know what that was. Yeah. So how do we keep this from looking like a rectangle? A 3-floor rectangle in our wording.
With a 4th floor deck.
Well, I think what you could do is give staff the guidance, and we can come back with language that captures that. There is something in here, it discusses variations in wall plane, but we may need to be a little more specific.
Yeah.
So I'd say now's the time for recommendations on this. And like I said, we can return to refine it.
Okay.
I would say off the top, based on what I've heard, is that it sounds like, to not want to speak for the commission, treating Artesia and aviation differently. They're maybe in terms of building height. Noting that the max height is basically not automatic. It's something that's you can achieve through meeting certain standards. Those were a few of them. And what you mentioned about the screening in the back, landscape or vegetative screening. I'm sure there's other ones I'm forgetting.
And setbacks on each floor.
Yeah, setbacks on each floor.
I am concerned about it looking like a tunnel. And I will tell you that one of the council persons said that that's just perfectly fine if it looks like a tunnel. But I think that really, and what I said is you need to have a vision, not you guys, those guys, the council. They really need a vision. I mean, we have plenty of little beach communities, and Mark, we know what they want. Right? We get it. We want it to be successful, and we want it to be beautiful, and we want people to be able to go around and have a salad and sit there with their dog. We get it. But when we make a statement just like 1.5, 40 or 45 tops with deck and all of this other stuff, that really scares me that's just too simple. And that we really are going to end up with just not a nice street. Well, it needs work. And we want to, guide the planning department to guide the developers when they come in and with an idea of what we want it to look like, not like a tunnel.
We definitely don't.
I don't know how to put that in wording. I know you do though, because you're professional.
And there's nothing currently in the presentation that really gives that sense. We've got some front ideas of what a building may look like, but there's nothing that shows the cumulative effect of these multiple parcels building to the extent possible. And it's only reasonable that over time, not overnight, but over time, developers are going to develop to the maximum allowable, what's allowed. So, yeah, to what was said earlier in public comment, I think we as a group, council, the people of the city need to see kind of like, what does that look like when you're walking down that sidewalk? And not something that says, well, this says 100 feet, but that's not really, you don't really get the feel for what 100 feet is. There's certainly ways, we see all this stuff with AI and everything. It seems like you could plug in some variables and get a sense for what it feels like standing on that sidewalk, looking down Artesia or looking down Aviation when it's fully built out. And maybe based on that, we can all have a better idea of what sorts of setbacks and what sorts of other accommodations we can make.
Mr. Boswell, you had a question?
Lots of them. But first question is on the topic of setbacks and the topic of walkability and the topic of our sidewalks were never built wide enough to have true walkability. And I know in some of our early discussions of this, we kind of went round and round about whether we should allow them to put any kind of signage on a narrow sidewalk because it's so narrow. What about ground floor setback of 10 feet? Creating a wider sidewalk, more walkable, big windows, and it's partially covered. It's in the shade. It's out of the rain the 4 days it rains. And like this week, they're all this week, right? This week. And then we're done, right? So and then the next question is, if you can do that for new development, does it have to be all back to the same amount? Can it be tilted? Can it be pointed? Can it be angled in? So you've got all of these opportunities to make a very interesting ground floor as you drive down Artesia if you think about setbacks being bigger on the ground floor, not on the upper floors. It's not that you couldn't have setbacks on the upper floors also, but having that big ground floor setback creates all kinds of opportunities for outdoor things that could now exist that can't on a narrow sidewalk as it stands now. And maybe even worse on Aviation than Artesia. One of the things that bothers me about tunnelization, and I don't know that this is really going to happen on Artesia, because even at 4 stories, I don't think the buildings are quite tall enough to throw a shadow clear across the street because the sun's not in that direction. But on Aviation, it is. When I first did my first interview after college on Wilshire Boulevard, I drive down Olympic, make a left on Normandy, and then a right onto Wilshire, and all of a sudden, there's no sun. And it caught me completely off guard. It seemed like all of a sudden, it was late afternoon. Well, what I realized is you've got 20-story high-rise buildings. You're in a tunnel. There is no sun on Wilshire in many of those places. It shouldn't be that way. In early 2000, I'm leaving a restaurant on Pier Avenue in Hermosa Beach, and the traffic is jammed up. You cannot get up or down Pier to save your life. So I circle around the block. I used to live in Hermosa. I know a shortcut. I circle around the block, and I come in on a side street, and I am lost. I am so familiar with that city when I lived there, and I'm lost because it's all redeveloped, and it's all high buildings, and you were basically driving down a residential street that's become a canyon. We can avoid that on these developments by being more creative on that ground floor, and maybe not allowing everybody to have 4. Maybe only certain, like I said before, maybe only under specific uses, and maybe only as a motivation to bring dining, fine dining, specifically to Artesia and Aviation. So I think we have some great opportunities. It's just not in the official presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner Light.
You're very welcome. I'll do that again on command.
Yeah, sort of piggybacking on Commissioner Boswell's comment, I'm kind of, I was a little intrigued by your statement that there's certain uses that we really want there. And I didn't hear what they were, but I'm wondering if this wouldn't be one protection against it, because there is several protections already that has to come to the commission to get approved. So there would be a case-by-case check. But is there something we could recommend that the council do to make it a tiered system? Okay, so this highly preferred use, they could be up to 3 stories or 4 stories. And if they're not that, then that's an exception. They would need a variance to get to there. Something along that line that would give us at least some comfort level that it isn't going to be 4 stories, which I can't imagine happen overnight, but I could see it being problematic if it started going that direction. Is that some kind of middle ground that we could consider?
Yeah, I think that would work. The only concern is that the use of the building could change. So, and especially if it's prior to construction, so that the developer could submit the application saying that they're proposing a use and kind of game the system to get that extra height, not assuming that's going to happen. But just keep that in mind. But I think aside from that, that is something we could do where and I think for some of it, like say if office is preferred use, I mean, maybe it would have to be set up where they're locked in, they're only using those floors for that for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, I was gonna I could see the gaming thing, but if there was some rules in place that it'd have to be for some length of time that they have to have that, or they would lose that, tenancy occupancy. I mean, the city has the right to keep them from using it for another use, is my understanding, right?
Yeah, so we could explore that and work on incorporating a draft that does that. I think it would be important to put some restrictions on it if we really are tying to the design of the building to the use that it has to be used in that way. And maybe it's in a general way, like office for the upper stories and some other use, whatever we deem might be, preferred.
Bike shop.
Commissioner Gaddis, you had a question?
Yeah, question. So would it be possible for us to come back to council to send back a recommendation to council as a result of our hearing and make a decision here to send back to council saying, this is a wonderful opportunity that these, ideas and these accommodations, the goal is to attract development money to put nicer businesses and more walkable, friendly businesses, and I think that those definitions could use just as former Chairman Lamb was suggesting. That is that there are things you're trying to attract here. Outdoor, first of all, restaurants with some outdoor dining, obviously, is a goal. More of that, walkable, and all those are great things and desirable. But the piecemeal of FAR and height limits and stuff, so many unintended consequences could result from that. I could throw in, make it a 3-story requirement, not over 3 stories, let's say. But again, is that really achieving the overall goal of revitalization in the manner that we're talking about? Now, whether, that's the right thing, I believe it's the right thing. I think most people believe it's the right thing in terms of attracting nice restaurants, walkability, access, bike friendly, all kinds of things like that. But there is a sort of a vision that needs to kind of happen here. And maybe going about it with these piecemeal limitations, FARs and stuff like that, they're components of how to achieve the goal, but the goal is not yet as defined as perhaps it could be. Could we come back to council with the recommendation that there be some public envisioning things going on before we make this big decision? Because once we do it, it's hard to backtrack, you know what I mean? But if we gain the public's buy-in on participation in what do we want it to look like when all is said and done, and then we design all these other limitations and FARs and other things around that, and you know, brilliant idea of a ground floor setback to encourage outdoor, you know, coffee drinking, dining, reading, whatever somebody's going to do, but, you know, and bigger sidewalks, because, yeah, the sidewalks there are very narrow. You've got trees and parking meters and, you know, garbage cans and mailboxes and stuff like, it really is right now this zigzag of bumpy sidewalks and stuff like, it is not walkable, really, realistically now. And a change is going to have to occur. That change should be envisioned now as we're talking about these grand changes in heights and FARs and things like that. Now's the time to say, well, what should that sidewalk? What should the ground floor setback be? I love the 12 foot, you know, because and open and visible inside, all that is brilliant. And it's a good chunk piece of the puzzle, but I think we need to envision what the thing is actually going to look like. And so sort of public participation, envisioning sessions, some consulting firm that has done this for other cities, and they could show us, well, we did this to this city and this is what it looked like. Is San Gabriel, I drove through there just, you know, trying to avoid some freeway thing when coming back. You know, we were on business up in Arcadia or something like that. And I was driving through and I was like, wow, this downtown San Gabriel where the mission is and stuff, the whole thing is really beautiful. I had no idea that it was there. Somebody had an idea of what that was supposed to look like when all was said and done, and they got it done. You know, I think that's where we kind of should be encouraging the council to set in motion and fund that kind of envisioning. Yeah. Should we do that as a recommendation? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think that would be a good recommendation. We have the ACAP, although it doesn't quite contemplate this increase in, you know, to 3 stories and the FAR to 1.5. It addresses certain things well in terms of like the public right of way and other aspects of the ACAP. So I think that would be a good recommendation. And I do want to explore whether we have some more time on this. I believe the Article 27 is really tied to the 1.5 FAR increase, but I don't know if these particular zoning standards need to go to a vote because they're not, because the driver is the FAR increase. So it's something I can explore, and that would give us more time to have that and not have to be working against a November election or a fall election. But I think that's just based on the comments I've heard tonight. I think right now it's still kind of in a rough stage, and some community engagement would probably serve this well and trying to refine what the vision is. And that includes having photo simulations and really trying to visualize, you know, what's these development standards would mean for the future of the corridor. So I think that's a good recommendation.
I think the economics, you guys have nailed the economics on this, and that is, you know, here are the parameters that are going to attract the investment that we want to attract, and that's great. Now let's sort of build the desirable vision for the street in along with those same parameters. Mm-hmm. So that we get it right.
I was going to say one other thing. I think you actually hit the nail on the head, because the hardest thing about processing this is that, well, is just voting for the FAR going to automatically make this happen? No, it's not. This is just one tool to say, well, within this parameter, you can do more things if we did increase the FAR on it. But how to vision it, I mean, like Commissioner Gaddis was taking, I was up in Santa Barbara just a few weeks ago, and at an art gallery, they had a great exhibit there. Just walking through all the streets, I think that's kind of what we're hoping we're going to end up with on Artesia Boulevard. Same thing there's an old part in Whittier, I think there's this old down Main Street down there, which is
yeah, State Street, when they closed that off, there was public outcry, businesses, we're going to go out of business, and right now it's full of people.
It's an amazing thing. So I think that, obviously we need to have the Article 27 vote because of the FAR suggestion. But is this something that we could, I hate to use the term effectuate because it was overused by someone up here a long time ago, more of a zoning the criteria? I mean, all the things we're talking about here has more to do with zoning and the subjective criteria we could use to apply within that 1.5 FAR.
Yeah, that's the way I view it. This is more of setting the building envelope and the setbacks. The driver of Article 27 is the FAR limit. So if possible, I'd like to bifurcate those. But I need to do a little research. It's always a little mysterious with Article 27. But I think that would be a good recommendation, and maybe along with it, you could also identify some of the things that you have listed tonight, and I have a list of those the council should consider
separating
as we move
aviation
forward.
And Artesia within this regard.
That's a really big one.
Yeah, and I can list those out again. I was taking notes if you want me to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have.
Gail, you still have something?
Yeah.
I did have a really quick question just for Commissioner Gaddis. You said the parameters. By that, did you mean you are okay with 45 feet and 1.5, or you don't know?
Yeah, it's out of context.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if you were saying, yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah,
no, I said that they've identified parameters that would attract investment, and that's great.
Right.
I got we don't have an overall vision.
Yeah.
45, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have a vision to work.
Okay, we're on the same page. And then I do also just get the feeling that it's being rushed for some reason, because I know that sounds crazy, seeing that we've been talking about this for so long. But these are really two big things. The 45 and the 1.5 were actually new from what we really, Sean, remember, we really dug into we were talking bike racks. We really got into it. Trees, bike racks, the whole thing. That's huge. So, we thought we were done with it, actually. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, so here's what I have. Looking at treating Artesia aviation differently, right now it's 3 stories allowed for all. Maybe it's more appropriate to limit the 2 on aviation, maybe even reduce the FAR a bit for aviation. Taking a closer look at the height limit and what the parameters are for if we're going to allow 45 feet, under what circumstances, what standards. And that could be tied to the use of the building, preferred uses. There's also the setting back of each floor, having setbacks for each floor, finding a way to articulate, providing variation in wall plane to help break up the mass of the building. I think that's desired. I heard from Commissioner Boswell about looking at maybe doing a 10-foot front setback to help expand the right-of-way, and that would be more pedestrian-oriented. I have, certainly we want photo sims, and that would be tied to this recommendation of the, more public engagement kind of visioning process for the corridor. And let's see. I think that pretty much captures what I've heard. And I do want to note that we could potentially have something in the land use element, because it's the land use element that sets the FAR limits. It could note that the 1.5 FAR goes into effect upon the adoption of this zoning ordinance. So you wouldn't be able to do the 1.5 until we've created these standards. And I wouldn't want this to be, I agree, I think it is a little, we're moving quickly, and that's with like the election in mind. I think if we can kind of split those and have more time with this, still move it along expeditiously and not take 7 or 8 years like with the general plan, but maybe like 6 to 9 months. Our fault. Hopefully it would come in right on the heels of this getting passed, through the election.
Right.
And I did want to note one more thing, and it's was referenced in one of the public comments. Yes, there are the state housing laws. There's AB 2011, which is what that project you reviewed on PCH that does apply here, which is concerning. But at the same time, these state housing laws may change, and I still think it's important for the city to move forward and create zoning standards that support local control to the extent that we can, and not just say, well, just do whatever you want because the state is overriding us. Because it may, I'm hoping, and it's not going to be that way forever, and it's just a temporary situation.
Yeah, and now you also said with we're talking public input as far, is that going to be like public input here at a commission meeting, or are we talking about community meetings, or what are we?
It would be like a workshop, design charrette, and we would bring in some professionals to assist us, probably PlaceWorks again, but it would be very focused, and the way I envision it, working off of the kind of the bar set by the city council, this 1.5 FAR, and then how do we achieve that in a way that's in the best interest of the city and the corridor and its design and future use.
The outcome.
Yeah.
Really, the desired outcome.
So it's like you're saying maybe something similar to what we did with the harbor redevelopment, perhaps, like the harbor amenities? I don't know, I'm trying to think of something similar.
Yeah, something similar to that where we can get a lot of engagement from stakeholders, and because so far, we discussed this at the city council meeting. There were a few speakers. There are not many tonight. It would be helpful to get some community engagement, especially from the surrounding neighborhoods, because ultimately that's why we're doing this, is to serve the residents and to make it a better place, make it a destination for residents and for visitors, and just upgrade the entire area. And we definitely want to get it right.
Right. Well, especially because I think you said the sample when you're talking to businesses, it was like 20 businesses, something like that.
Yeah.
Which there's a lot more than that on Artesia. So.
Yeah, there are. And on that survey, there were more questions than just about, with bigger building. It was, is the construction cost a barrier? Is it parking? It's construction cost was actually rated up there. I'd have to pull out the results as being a pretty big barrier. So it was kind of, there were multiple questions on it framed in different ways. And I'd be happy to share that with the Planning Commission. And I don't know if it's statistically significant based on the number of responses, but it's still information.
Yeah, we can work upon, the starting point. Okay, so what is our next step now?
We should close
we
public
would do-
hearing, maybe?
Yeah, motion to close the public hearing?
Have more public hearing next week or next time?
No, we
He
didn't.
said no more comments.
I think-
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
there are no more questions from any of the commissioners at all? Okay.
Do we do a motion to the staff
To
is going
discuss?
to, and then bring it back to us, or how does the motion work?
Well, it sounds like at this point, the primary desire is to have more of a process to this, a visioning process, community engagement process.
Right, envisioning and community engagement, that's what we're
So I would say rather than having us take all these recommendations and incorporate them in the new version of the ordinance, I would just make that recommendation with these other points, and then we will forward that on to the city council, and that will likely be as soon as March. We want to keep it moving. We'll get your recommendations to them, and we'll take a closer look at whether we can, get some more time on this matter as it pertains to Article 27 and the election, and I think we can.
Well, the other option too, if we were going to have a special meeting because of the general plan update, I think, that got canceled. I mean, this is important. I mean, if we needed to have one other meeting, I don't think that we would object to that. Maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I think I think this is important, so.
It is important.
Yeah.
Is the March 6th meeting canceled?
That one's canceled.
Yeah. How are we closing this?
Yeah, sure, close public hearing and then vote to have you take this message back to council.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
okay.
so can I get a
Motion to
motion?
close public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. And need a motion for?
Motion to direct council to take the message back to the council that we believe that
The project.
that aviation and Artesia should probably they should consider an envisioning, but that these different components we've discussed should probably be considered separately for aviation and Artesia, and that we engage a professional services firm that has revitalized a commercial district in successful fashion in sort of the mode that the public and in public engagement sessions can talk about different opportunities that we don't disagree on its face with the recommendations that they've sent to us, but they need to be contextualized and more public engagement and more of a vision, basically.
And a little bit of to include your list.
Yes, I was going to suggest that.
Mark's list.
And maybe even like, I don't know if we had to put a model after maybe some examples of like State Street in Santa Barbara, for example, which I think is
or the Mission District in San Gabriel.
Exactly. I mean, you could literally do a Google walk and go right into the visual of what it would look like with that, and just stick Artesia Boulevard signs on it. It would look the same.
Our motion's gotten a little complicated. Start over again. Will you start over again? Okay, just.
Okay.
No, I think he's got
it.
Okay, I'm gonna second that motion.
Second that one.
Have the list.
Second that motion.
And roll call?
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Light,
We vote no?
Aye.
Commissioner Boswell,
What he said.
Oh, the instructions for them to
Right.
go,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, bring to council.
Commissioner Boswell,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Aye.
Commissioner Gaddis,
Aye.
Commissioner Conroy,
Aye.
Commissioner Hazeltine,
Aye.
Chairperson Craig.
Aye. It carries. Now with regard to J2, isn't this a lot of
Same as
overlap
above?
here?
See above?
Yeah, see above.
Yeah,
I motion to open public hearing.
I gotta say, I don't want to sound like, what's his name, that former talk show host, but ditto might be the term.
There's a motion on the floor. There's a motion on the floor. I motion to open public hearing on
Second.
J2.
On J2?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Go ahead. J2, just to read it, is a public hearing to consider an ordinance amending Title 10, Chapter 2, zoning and land use of the Redondo Beach Municipal Code pertaining to amendments to establish regulations permitting rooftop dining within the Artesia and Aviation Corridors Area Plan AA cap. So, do we do a presentation of this as well, or? I guess.
I think given that it's published and scheduled, we'll go through the presentation. The commission can give us some preliminary comments, and we'll get comments from the public.
Okay.
But I do think this ties into the larger effort of revitalization, and I'm assuming some of the recommendations are going to be the same. That said, if the commission has any additional ideas or recommendations for what we drafted so far, we're welcome to receive those.
Okay. Very good. Back to deja vu, right?
All right. Good evening again. Here I'll be discussing and presenting to you the draft amendments for rooftop dining for the ACAP area. Just to give you some quick background here, the general plan did identify the ACAP area as an area for reinvestment in commercial areas. Guidance from City Council was provided on August 5th. To discuss revitalization strategies, including the FAR increase, limiting parking, as well as rooftop dining. A draft of the amendment for rooftop dining was presented to the City Council on January 6th, and they provided the following direction to staff with the draft ordinance. And to consider the rooftop dining applications through an administrative use permit, or AUP, also to limit the area to the ACAP, as well as consider additional height allowance for elevators, and provide residential privacy protections through the ordinance, as well as mitigate any light and noise impacts to adjacent residential uses. So the framework for the administrative use permit is a discretionary review process So as part of the staff's review, there would be an evaluation of site-specific conditions and context and looking at the neighborhood areas and potential impacts. We would be looking to establish project-specific conditions of approval, depending on the context of the area, as well as requiring additional noise mitigation strategies if warranted, and then modifying or revoking the approval for any violations or public nuisances after a permit were to be issued. These are publicly noticed and would be appealable to the Planning Commission. So with that, some of the design standards and operating measures that have been incorporated in here include establishing hours of operations, as well as consideration of alcohol service, limiting amplified music, and noise mitigation measures to be sensitive to adjacent residential uses, as well as consideration of seating capacity. As part of this, we want to look at rooftop structures, typically shade structures here, non-enclosed, that would have allowance of additional 10 feet in height from the roof, as well as an allowance for an additional height increase above the zoning allowance standards, as well as additional height allowances for elevators. These structures would have a requirement of at least a 5-foot setback from the edges of the roof, as well as a 20-foot setback from adjacent residential uses and screening of mechanical equipment, as well as minimizing visual and neighborhood impacts. There are also design requirements to ensure that the rooftop dining component is architecturally compatible with the structure and avoiding any lighting impacts to adjacent uses. There's a specific section looking at potential noise and as it relates to the use, and the submittal requirement of a noise mitigation plan that would be included with the application. So this would ensure compliance with the noise ordinance, as well as look at key elements like the rooftop layout, hours of operations, is amplified music proposed, where are those speakers proposed, and where are the directions of those. Possible noise control measures like noise absorbing materials, as well as any kind of screening or walls to prevent noise spillover, as well as monitoring by the operator and how are they addressing noise complaints. The code does have built-in opportunity to request a noise study, either at the submittal of the application or if issues arise, to ensure that adjacent properties are not impacted. Again, we discussed the schedule at the previous application for the commercial zoning designations. So that's the same, as well as looking for recommendation from the Planning Commission, including the opening of the public hearing, deliberating and closure of the public hearing, and consideration of the amendments before you. So that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Any questions from any of the commissioners there? I see Commissioner Light waving his finger.
Yeah, I had a thought there, question on that last comment, but I forgot what it was, so couldn't have been that important.
Okay, well, we will bring it back.
I'll get back.
I see hands waving here. Commissioner Hazeltine.
Okay, so the obvious thing we need to really flesh out is we have residential behind all of these commercial. Aviation, Teresa was saying, is mainly first 1 and 2 floors. And then Artesia, they have usually two floors. So that's a mess. So how do we keep the rooftop decks, which I actually think are a really good idea to have that as an option, but how do we keep that from, messing with all those people, those homes back there? And, people looking into the backyard, people looking into people's homes, the whole thing is,
Yeah, also sound propagation too. I think we'd have to identify, well, you're up above, sound tends to go out and up. But, like I said, in the terrain areas, for example, on aviation, there's homes like, remember we approved that one car repair place where the other side of the street, the houses are just right up the hillside. They would get bombarded with people drinking and dropping glasses and stuff all night long, or listening to some horrible guitar player playing and some stuff.
I guess that was covered in the kind of the screening comment.
Yeah.
But that's really hugely important along that street. So that needs to be addressed.
Yeah. So
and clarified for us.
Yeah.
I remember mine now.
Please go ahead.
Wasn't that important? Actually, so this has to be voted on, just like the FAR. So is this one of the things that doesn't have the option of being held off or bifurcated
It
out?
is. So this particular zoning amendment would need the vote from my take on it, because it does potentially increase traffic. It allows additional commercial area. So there is a little more urgency with this one. That said, I think if the commission and the council are supportive of rooftop dining, it's probably a little more straightforward in terms of how we regulate it and help mitigate it compared to the complexities of the design of an entire boulevard.
So it would require some kind of wall between the residentials and that for sound mitigation, if no other reason than privacy, right?
Yes. Do you want to address that, John, with the mitigation?
Yeah, so those were points that were brought up by the city council as well in consideration of developing the ordinance before you. And so just as a baseline, there's a 20-foot setback requirement from residential. In the event that the building is located even closer than that, then that 20-foot setback would apply to the outdoor seating area. So if the building's set back 10 feet from the rear property line, the seating area would then have to be set back in an additional 10 feet in the roof area to provide that separation for privacy, noise, and what have you. As part of the application submittal, we're looking at what the seating layout is. Is there any music or anything else like that being provided or proposed, as well as the context of the area? So we've built in that the director has the ability at the onset of the application or later on to require that noise study. So those are all things that have been kind of built in and placed in here, as well as potential proposed noise amplification sound sources and looking at where those are located, but then also noise absorbing materials, parapets, walls, screening, those types of things to be considered as well as part of the application, understanding the close proximity to residential.
And this might be kind of a remedial question, but does the rooftop dining deck, is that included into the FAR? No, it's not included.
It would not, because it's not enclosed square footage.
Okay, just like any residential heated, so it's not included in that. And one other quick question on that.
It could be. We could, and that's a question we kind of discussed internally, is that should this be considered floor area, like part of the 1.5 FAR? If that's the case, it may actually change the Article 27 issue.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
So I think these are things to consider, especially in light of the fact that we may be looking to go down a different track. And we may want to consider making this part of the FAR of the building.
Yeah.
So that's an option.
Yeah, another consideration beyond FAR is you could make it part of the maximum height of the building.
True.
And I do want to note there is a requirement for a noise mitigation plan that they have to submit, basically demonstrating how they intend to monitor and limit noise, limit impacts during their operation. I know one thing I've found to be pretty effective is if they have, they keep continuous noise monitoring active at the site, so they can, the city can request that upon, or they can have to provide it upon request. And that way the city can track how they are doing in terms of complying with the noise levels. That could just be a standard condition that they provide that. I've used that before for other like live entertainment venues. So that's something to consider. I think there's definitely various ways that we could monitor and regulate this. There's also the potential that in some circumstances, possibly they, depending on the proximity of residential, maybe they have to cease operation at earlier hours than the restaurant hours. Maybe it would be at 9, and that would be like stop service at 9. So I think those are some things to consider, because the idea is, I think everybody enjoys dining on a rooftop. It could be a really good addition out there, but we also have to ensure it's done carefully and in a way it's going to be as least impactful as possible.
Right. Didn't we, I seem to remember this conversation coming up years ago with a discussion on it's now the Eddie Hotel or Plush, where the Plush Horse Hotel was, because they were putting a parapet and a rooftop deck on that as well. I know we had a lot of discussion about what kind of sound and things on it. Is that a similar discussion we had then that you're envisioning for this future application?
Yeah, I mean, particularly, did you say Shade Hotel or did you say?
No, not Shade. I'm talking about the
Legato.
Legato Hotel.
Yeah, and we did exactly that. We did a couple of things. We did a line of sight analysis so that the adjacent condominiums that are to the north didn't have, there weren't views of the activities on the roof. So they had to do a screen wall, a landscaping screen wall, and that was. It served two purposes. One, it created, there wasn't any lighting issues going across to the residential. It blocked that, and it was incorporated into the noise analysis that they did. And in this ordinance, there's actually screening and privacy provisions that require landscaping and screening walls or other features may be required to protect the privacy of adjacent uses. So, that's one thing that speaks to allowing a little more height on the corridor than the adjacent residential. Then you don't have that
direct line
peer to peer, right? You've elevated it, and then that sound will go up above. Also, line of sight, isn't, and lighting isn't spilling over directly into those residences. So, something to keep in mind.
Commissioner Gaddis, you had a question.
I was trying. Oh, go ahead.
Please, Commissioner. I'm getting tapped here. Your arm's not long enough, but go ahead. Please, go ahead.
All right. You're supposed to keep track of this stuff.
I try to.
That said, and being so insistent on being able to talk, most of what I was going to ask and discuss has been covered now, especially the part about a sound wall, sound absorbing materials, not a flat wall. Absorbs better, but the landscaped wall, and I assume you're referring to a vertical garden. Does the city have the ability to make sure that the restaurant or whatever business is doing this keeps that alive? I mean, if somebody walks in to inspect that sometime, or you get a complaint from a diner, hey, I really liked eating on the rooftop deck, didn't like sitting next to a dead bunch of ivy on the wall. It's got to be maintained. It's got to not look like crap. Also, typically on a rooftop deck, dining deck, or any kind of rooftop deck, you've got these clear panels, acrylic or clear panels. And then you even mentioned in here some shade structures can be up to 10 feet above the level with, canvas shade or sails or whatever, retractable. All of that helps keep the sound inside. And it's mostly, I would assume, not going to be amplified music. It's going to be clinking of silverware and glasses and yelling at the waiter and stuff like that. So is the city able to actually enforce that kind of micromanagement, nitty-gritty? Can you make sure that once they're in, they continue to keep it that way?
That's why I think it may be a good idea to put the responsibility on the operator to monitor the sound and be able to provide that to the city. Code enforcement is somewhat complaint-based, so if we are getting complaints about a particular business, we can require that they make modifications to mitigate that further, or that the use even be discontinued. It could be a revocation of the CUP if it's really an issue, or AUP, for the neighborhood. So there is some recourse to that. I do know that in my time with the city, I've been involved with some businesses that have a CUP, and code enforcement was able to get to a positive resolution. But I think the more that we can put into the conditions that makes it easier for us to track and enforce, the better.
And are we also considering any kind of rooftop, or is it a rooftop activity, or is this just for dining? I mean, I don't know what else you'd want to do on the top of on the roof there, but you know, meditative yoga garden, or who knows what. Obviously not band practice. So is this just about dining, or is it for any kind of rooftop activity that a business might want to have?
It's only intended for dining, but I think you raise a good point. It might be worth providing an exception that could go through a similar process. I hadn't really contemplated other uses, but doing yoga or something.
Stargazing.
I don't think we're going to.
You know what? That's not, have a couple telescopes on top of a building.
I don't think we're talking about skeet shooting, right? That would be on the list.
But, you know, we're always talking about tree canopy, but, you know, do we want to motivate developers to put in a building where the top floor is a park?
Gail likes that.
Green roof, yeah.
Green roof, top is a park. Meditative place.
Mark's kind of.
Of course, then it's about mitigating the sound from the street more than the interior.
Mark put one on top of the roof here, by the way. There's a canopy up here.
So requiring some landscaping on the roof?
Can we? If it's a flat roof, it's got to be landscaped.
Okay.
Commissioner Conroy, or I don't know, something's got to be up there.
I think he is.
Raised solar, and underneath that, it's a mushroom farm.
I think some landscaping, some vegetation that should probably be built into the ordinance. So, I like the idea of the green roofs, kind of park also.
So I said skeet shooting.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioner Boswell. Commissioner Conroy.
You're welcome. Calling me more often.
My,
no, you don't.
You think taking me on the shoulder? Chair? I'm taking my
And I
thing
put
down
mine up.
because I'm speaking. All right. So my immediate concern relates to the fact that it's currently set up for AUP, right? Which would be handled completely by staff. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. To the extent that every parcel is unique and most if not all of them border residential properties, and we've talked about the impact of sound and lighting and everything and so forth, it seems to me like we want to require a CUP or otherwise put it in front of this commission to ensure that the site-specific evaluations of noise, lighting, and residential compatibility take place. I'm not sure why it wasn't considered as this, or why it was set up as an AUP over a CUP.
Well, the council's provided either option, and they recommended the AUP. But the commission can certainly provide a recommendation that you believe a CUP be warranted. A CUP is a more public process. The AUP,
which I think is good in this case.
The AUP, there is public noticing and it's appealable, but it is an administrative decision by staff, so you don't have the opportunity to receive public comments. And I would imagine most of these, the public will be interested in,
especially with the cumulative effect, right?
Yeah,
the public may be more interested if there's a couple that are in place that are not in line with what we all thought, the impact it would be initially, right?
So I think the idea was to make it streamlined, but we didn't really have a very robust discussion with the council on the pros and cons of either. And
I could see how streamlining would take place if we were anticipating to get 40 of them at the same time, but I would expect they would kind of filter in a little bit slower than that, would be my guess. as previously stated, I think that another consideration for this would be wherever rooftop dining is permitted, that the total height, including the elevator structure, be under the total maximum building height for the property.
So included into the FAR is almost what you're saying.
Or just the height,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we're talking about it adds 15 feet roughly for an elevator structure, or even without that, if somebody wanted to do a walk up, it's still, there is some height above the roof line. And I think we would want to keep that below the total, which we talked about somewhere between 36 and 45 feet. And then if it's not already in there, I think it would be in staff's best interest to include some kind of compliance language allowing review or modifications of approvals if recurring nuisance issues occur. Thank you.
Very good. Should I follow the mouse?
Yeah.
Follow the mouse.
The mouse is the signal that you're next to speak.
Indeed. That's the pillow.
So is there really, and this is a broader question, is there really a fundamental difference between, outdoor dining at ground level and outdoor dining at, on a rooftop in terms of, I just don't know of any acoustical disadvantage to having it on a rooftop versus ground level. First of all, if there is a difference, I'd like to know about it. And second of all, do we certainly have around the city examples of outdoor dining that abuts residential. Am I correct? And what have we done? Yeah, down in Riviera Village. What have we done to sort of mitigate possible problems that might arise?
I mean, the one that comes to mind, top of mind, is the old Village Liquor that got converted into a restaurant. But it's kind of a...
Is that Rockefeller?
Yeah, no, it's
Whitefield, the new.
it's Beach Life Grotto.
Yeah.
Grotto.
Yeah, Beach Life Grotto.
Yeah, and but it's really a second story deck for dining. So as far as like rooftop dining, I think the only one I know of is Legato, and I think maybe Shade Hotel has one up on the roof.
That doesn't really abut residential though.
But it doesn't, no. Legato does. And we did a lot of noise studies. We did a lot of line of sight studies. We incorporated landscaping screen walls. But we don't really have it on a smaller scale.
How about the Rockefeller in Riviera Village?
They're in the front though.
They have, they have this rear.
That's on ground level though.
It is ground level. That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
And so have there been issues, or are they well mitigated, or, I know they have a hedge. It looks like it's at sort of a height, appears to be building height sort of edge in the back. And I mean, was that ever an issue? Has there ever been a problem down there?
No.
Well, I can't speak to the ones here, but when I was with the city of Carmel, I processed quite a few conditional use permits for outdoor dining, typically at ground level. And it was normally managed through the hours of operation by putting up some kind of screen or wall to help, contain the noise. Also by proper setbacks. From my experience, and there were quite a few that abutted residential, they were not really problematic with those mitigations in place. Would get occasional complaints, and then the city would notify the restaurant operator and they would address it. And I've been involved with some rooftop applications, and it's anecdotal, but I believe the noise impacts may even be a bit less when it's elevated.
That's what I would imagine.
Yeah, and just knowing, seeing after they've gone in and passing, just from my experience, it seems to be a lesser noise impact than if it were at the back patio of a restaurant that abuts residential.
Right.
Okay. That was my question.
Right. Any other questions from commissioners before we could open the public comment, or no?
Right to open public comment?
A motion to open public comment?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any cards or individuals who wish to speak?
We don't have any attendees that would like to
Anybody who
speak.
wants to speak needs to
That's
step
from the earlier
forward.
one. Oh, I'm sorry, Teresa Mitchell actually had a card for both.
I got you.
You had 2 on 1, I didn't catch that.
She's saving paper.
Wait a minute.
Teresa Mitchell, District 4. Yeah, thank you guys. I know that these are a lot of work, and I'm very excited to see the ACAP. And with 3 minutes, everything seems like a complaint instead of like how much work and how nice these are and how happy we are to see them. So I do appreciate a lot of this work from everybody in the room, staff and commissioners. So I don't have a lot of comments on this, but I think some of them have been said. It is a concern on the cumulative effect of the previous zoning amendment and this one, but I do think that it is appropriate to include the FAR, and in the FAR calculations and the height limit, I think that absorbs the cumulative effect, and it also, because there does seem to be space with a 1.5 FAR and a higher height limit. A couple other things that I think are important is like being explicit with the hours of operation for rooftop dining, and amplified sound in particular. So, it's one thing to have a rooftop that opens at 10 in the morning on a Sunday and it closes at 9 or 10 at night. It's another one that opens at 7 in the morning on a Sunday and it closes at 2 in the morning. So if we can be explicit about that for the rooftop, especially since every one of these is going to be next to a residential house. And then I did notice that there's a lot of really good contact with lighting and noise, but not as much with visual screening, because it says visual screening may be required for privacy, but shall be required for mechanical equipment. So I would hope that as a resident that we get at least the same status as the mechanical equipment, that we can get that. And then I love the green roof idea. And I also think that this should be a conditional use permit and not an administrative design review. Because it does have such a big public impact for us right there. And I think that just by having it as a conditional use permit, the thought that goes into it on the developer side is much more rigorous. And while right now we have a very good staff that is looking at this is something that's going to be beyond your years, and your successors and multiple successors behind you are also going to be held to that standard. So we don't know how diligent they would be. So again, thank you for all of it, and that's all I had.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
I would just add, as far as the visual screening, that goes 2 ways too. People that live next to that don't want people on a deck looking into their living room or bedroom.
Right.
Well, some might.
You were thinking of something else?
Actually, this is my 3rd time, sorry. I'm usually out pretty quick. Steve Haig. Hookah Hut's gone.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, so the stink on the corner is gone. It's going to be leased to another company, you can ask Zane. Why we let places in like that, I have no idea.
Better that than Chick-fil-A.
What's wrong with Chick-fil-A?
We can't.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you.
no,
Please go on.
I'm okay with interaction.
Well,
I
we're not
enjoy it.
supposed
We're not
This-
supposed to be.
Yeah, this is your time to speak. You have 3 minutes. We
I
don't
understand.
We don't want to take away from your time.
No, I understand, but I enjoy interaction because we have 2 thoughts, other than these and emails and text and so on. Are we going to do something about the pine cones? Are we going to do something about the businesses today that you see that are decrepit? You saw the old hookah, Dave's bookstore went, they're painting. What are we going to do about those businesses today? Not 10 years. Where's the cool? It's not there. One automotive goes out, one comes in, okay, Lucky's. That dirt lot with Yanagi moving out of the restaurant into it's only to go. Cool food, great, I recommend it. Dirt lot, folks, 4+ years. I don't think.
We appreciate your comments, but we're really limited to rooftop decks right now.
Oh, sorry, I was looking
No,
at
you
that.
have time, but we're talking on topic now, which is about
Just
rooftop decks.
Rooftops, okay.
I appreciate it,
No
but
problem, that's okay,
just
thank
want to
you.
keep you focused on rooftop, that's all.
Okay. You have the wind in the last few days. What happens to everything on the roof? Is anyone going to go up there? We have Santa Ana's and other things. Where is there another rooftop like you guys are talking about in Redondo Beach? And I ask you, fine dining, we're North Redondo. It is what it is. It's a stepchild to South Redondo because I lived there as well. If I'm going to go for a great dining experience, why in the world would I stop on Artesia, fine dining, whatever, Brogino's great restaurant, versus driving a couple miles and be sitting at the ocean? I don't think anybody in their right mind, oh, I can enjoy the view of, I don't know, Goodwill, whatever, if I'm rooftop dining. They have specialty food. Not here. There is no specialty food that's going to be exclusive for that area. We got to be real, folks. Seriously. You're going to develop the Galleria? They're going to have rooftop there? That's new construction. Why not, if that's what you want to do? But this is Artesia over Lord knows how many years. And we're going to start spotting rooftop dining? I think there'll be a lot of cocktails ordered. You can say, no, people are going to eat food. Nonsense. They'll be looking for the view. Why are you on a roof versus below? And things like plexiglass, that does not help with sound. That's actually going to increase sound as it bounces. And I know that for a fact, but you've got to use sound absorbing materials. I think you guys are going down a stretch, I hate to say. Don't see a solution. Don't see how it's going to help the neighbors. Remember, quality of life. Don't give it away.
Thank you. Do we have any other cards or online comments? Online speakers?
We have no online speakers and no more cards.
Very good. Close public comment?
Motion to close the public.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Public comments is closed. Yes, so.
Is this a situation also that we would include that with J1, or do we hash this out right now? I'm kind of concerned about putting, just passing the rooftop on a 45-foot building.
I mean,
if we don't have one solved yet,
eventually, right? So we're not changing anything.
We're not going to recommend it as it is. It needs to go back and be refined.
Right.
Well, that's the question, is like what we have at hand. I guess we're not saying that we're approving it as is. We're saying it needs to change.
So we would change it tonight.
So do we change it tonight, or do we make recommendations to change it and bring it back? What are we looking at here?
Recommendations for refinement.
What do you recommend?
Yeah, I would recommend that we receive the comments from the Planning Commission. We update the ordinance and bring it back for another review. I think the comments that we're going to receive are things that we can incorporate. And then I do believe this will go through concurrently with the overall plan for the ACAP.
Okay.
And that will set the height limit. And I do want to note there were comments about dining elsewhere, and I understand that for special occasions, but this is a really dense area, population density, and there is a desire from residents for the area to be more walkable, to be able to walk to a dining establishment. It doesn't, on a weeknight per se.
Right.
And that's exactly why he's wrong, that people aren't going to go to those new restaurants on Artesia. They're not going to get in their car and drive to Hermosa Beach to see the ocean. They're going to walk from where they live to have a nice meal, relax, take their time, have a couple drinks, mug someone on the way home, and that's it. There's no car involved, no ocean involved.
and
It's
to your
just a
example-
nice night out, very relaxing.
Yeah, and to your example, I used to live in Santa Monica. I was in college. I lived right off of Wilshire near Santa Monica as well. Yeah, we'd walk to a place. I mean, I didn't necessarily drive down to Ocean Park and hang out at the Lobster at the end of the Santa Monica Pier all the time. But, you know, it's convenience. And if you have a nice place to go, you can walk to it. I think that's an excellent idea. Just because we're not doing it now doesn't mean it can't be that way. So.
Yeah, and I was just noting that because really the intent of both of these ordinances you've reviewed is placemaking, making this a destination. I understand that scale and design is an important factor of that too, but that's the intent behind this, so that's why I mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that.
We all agree with
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Watch the
So
goodwill.
I do, support Commissioner Jason's having the roof within the FAR. I think that's really a great idea because otherwise we end up with a real tall building because we're going to have a wall that gives privacy. Again, in the slideshow, we show this beautiful one-story with a glass roof deck. Okay, we'll all take that, right? But that's not what's going to happen if we're up on the 4th floor. I took some other notes. Hold on a minute. Oh, we do need the shall on the screening, not a recommend, you know, right? It needs to say shall. Yeah, and then just, I would hope it would come back to us so we can flush it out.
Yes, I heard also hours at operation, maybe putting some standards in for that. And the one I referenced was putting the onus on the operator to monitor the noise and be able to provide those records.
Great idea.
How about making it a CUP rather than?
Oh, yeah, I really like that too.
Yes, yes.
That's an important one.
And the reason I think, Mark, that's so important is that whenever we've had a business in front of us, we really have made it better. We've increased their hours. We've, you know, recommended screening. We really have made it better for the businesses. So it's not a scary thing to come in front of us, I don't think.
Yeah, and I could see how there would be neighborhood interest if you received a notice. I know if I was a resident, I would be interested and want to be able to go weigh in and make sure I hear about the application. So as we talk about this, that makes a lot of sense that it would be a CUP for this particular use.
And overall, I mean, I totally support rooftop decks. I think it's a great idea.
Actually, based on these comments, we could probably incorporate those. I mean, we can return with it, or we could just add those, but I guess we'll wait to see what the rest of the comments are and what you decide.
Yeah.
Please
go ahead.
I would love to see additional setback from the residents.
From the back, you're saying?
In the back, yeah.
Above the 20 feet.
Yes.
And the idea is there's parking in that 20 feet, right? So a few more feet wouldn't hurt.
Well, the building's setback's already set at 20. You're talking about just the roof pad?
Just the rooftop dining. So literally the physical distance between where anybody could be sitting and residential property.
That would provide an additional shield for sound.
How many feet are you recommending?
I was thinking 10.
So a 30-foot setback?
Yeah, but is the sound mitigating technology going to be superior to that as a way to shield residents from noise?
I think there's more than just the sound shielding. It's having just physically more distance.
Great idea.
And what is the benefit of physically more distance if it's not mitigating something?
The physical proximity of something, whether you can see it or hear it, is there regardless
of the building next to it.
Well, I think what we could do, it may be helpful, is if I guess if it was a second-story building, I was going to say we could do like a line of sight analysis to show how visible the seating would be setback 20 feet. From the ground level, that would make sense. If it was a second-story building, you may actually still be able to see it regardless of whether it's setback 20 or 30.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Gaddis. I'm sorry?
You gotta put your mouse.
You're-
So the,
we kind of
Don't throw it.
so,
There you go.
so and this is for my fellow commissioners too. I have seen, in the past where sort of in the off season, businesses have used their rooftop decks, because the weather wasn't favorable to outdoor dining, using it for storing things. As a matter of fact, I walked out in a project. I was CFO of a company and we did a project in Las Vegas, and I wanted to show my friends the outdoor, even though the weather wasn't outdoor dining weather. I wanted to show them the outdoor day. I went out there and there were, chairs stacked up and empty garbage things and cases of beer. And so the outdoor deck had been turned into outdoor storage. And I thought, oh God, if that's probably not a great thing. So is there a way we can prohibit them from storing anything on the roof that isn't like outdoor furniture that's used for the outdoor dining? Like they could stack their tables and chairs and cover them for the weather or something like that, but not use it as storage of
You could just say
inventory
it
or,
can't be used for any other use except outside dining.
yeah, not for
Specifically mentioned
It
storage.
specifically mentioned storage.
something to that effect.
Okay. Mr. Boswell.
And I just keep coming up with images popping into my head of things I've seen. A client of mine developed a floor in the W Hotel as like they branded it as the penthouses above the penthouse. But you're way up there and there's great decks and everything with the way they developed this. So I'm looking over in the evening, the early evening, it's finally dark, and there's a building not far away. On their roof, they have like a drive-in theater. There's a big screen, there's chairs set up, and there's people that were starting to come out, and I'm going, well, does the whole neighborhood listen to this movie? They're putting in headphones.
That's a great idea.
It's quiet, it's calm, it could be done in the wind. There's all kinds of things that could be up on these roofs that would attract people from not only walkable areas around Redondo Beach and bikeable areas, but what we really want are people coming in from other cities and spending their money and keeping the sales tax. So the disposable income of higher income communities that are around us and to the south and to the north, we want those people to come in here and buy expensive food and drinks and cocktails and stuff like, beyond just the restaurant model. I think the more we think about this, the more cool stuff we could put up there.
Great idea.
Be compatible with attracting revenue for the city. Shuffleboard? No, just kidding.
Curling.
Skeet shooting?
Skeet shooting.
On the south side.
Well, thanks.
But stuff like this, a movie theater.
Great idea.
Rooftop movies.
Okay.
All right, we have to be serious now. Stop that, Mr. Conroy. Any other questions or anything you want to do? Is there a mouse?
I think our list is not
They
that
better-
large. We could probably just amend this.
Your call.
I might want to vote to table it just so if there are other people in the area that have bigger feelings, that they have
Okay.
the opportunity to share.
We can combine it with, because
Part of the envisioning thing.
yeah, because these two, that's why I mentioned at the beginning, I mean, these are intertwined. Just like involved in it. It makes some sense to do that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you had a
Great
question.
idea.
We're agreeing.
Yeah, we're agreeing. Make it
we're
be
concurring.
part of the public discussion. I think that's a great idea.
Since they are kind of enmeshed.
Of J1.
So the commission would prefer to let us incorporate these amendments and return with the updated draft, and that will give opportunity for another hearing and more public input, sounds like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because they both need to be
And more time for us to think
approved,
about
so you're saying that it makes more sense just to approve them both at the same time when we do that.
Yes,
Okay.
I agree.
Part of the bigger vision.
Exactly.
Okay, motion to table this pending amendments for a following meeting. as stated.
So I think it's actually, it'd be continuing
Oh,
it.
to
the item.
continue. Okay.
To be continued.
Motion to continue, J2, pending amendments.
Do you want to give the refinements we proposed?
Oh, didn't we just do that? Do we need to list them
Mark,
all?
Mark has a list of those, I think.
Okay.
now.
I think his list was.
Yeah, I have the list. I captured everything that was
So like we
stated.
did with the last one.
And that would go along with this recommendation to sort of.
It would. So we will, it's continuing it, so staff can return with the updates as directed by the planning commission.
Okay.
Second.
This will be at the
But
March
making it
meeting,
clear-
not a supplemental
But-
meeting, right?
I'm sorry.
I didn't put this up there, but this would be the next March, the third Thursday meeting. It's not a new meeting.
Yes, I would suggest, we could probably fit it.
Gotta check.
No, but
I mean, I think so. It'll be kind of a recap and confirmation for March 19.
Well, yeah, we'll target March. I was gonna suggest maybe continue it to a date certain, but if the idea is to try to notify the community a little more, it probably wouldn't hurt to do another notice. So we will target March, but it could be April.
Yeah, because it's got to run through council and they have to make a decision on whether they're going to hire PlaceWorks or somebody to work through all this stuff. And that's a decision they need to make.
Yeah, I think the point was to make it part of the first one, which was to
the
get
development
public
standards.
input, to hire somebody to help us out here, and then the rooftop can go along with that.
Yeah, so we'll make sure when we make the recommendation to the city council about the development standards,
Right.
that there was a recommendation that the rooftop be approved concurrently with that ties them together. But that said, the commission did provide some direction on this, and so we will incorporate that and return with it for another review.
Okay.
Very good.
I second that.
That's the motion and a second.
Mhm.
So do we have a roll call vote for that?
Commissioner Light,
Aye.
Commissioner Boswell,
Aye.
Commissioner Young,
Aye.
Commissioner Gaddis,
Aye.
Commissioner Conroy,
Aye.
Commissioner Hazeltine,
Yes.
Chairperson Craig.
Aye. Motion carries for whatever recommendation. Okay.
Motion to close public hearing? Oh, we already did that. Sorry.
Yeah, we did that. Okay, next on our agenda is item K, items continued from previous agendas. I don't believe we have anything. Items for discussion prior to action, I don't think we have anything there as well. Items from staff. Anything to receive and, I'm
I
sorry.
think we have a receive and
We
file.
already
right?
receive and file, don't we here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is related to the rules of, the commission rule updates, I think. Now, this is primarily with the commission responsibilities, isn't it not? Not necessarily code of conduct?
What was that, Chair?
Oh, I was saying this item to receive and file, is this something, I know we talked about that in a previous meeting. Commissioner Boswell asked some questions about it. But this has to do with the individual roles of the commissions where it outlines everything we do.
Correct.
It doesn't have anything about conduct of a person if they're on a commission, correct? That's a separate thing? That's still being worked on? Like a code of conduct, I think is what I remember.
Well, there's two ordinances or resolutions that actually ordinances that the council adopted, one for all commissions and how they're to conduct business, and then specifically the roles and responsibilities of the planning commission is the other one. And then in there too, if you want to see how it changed, we had included a copy of a track changes version,
Right.
so you could see and we advise the commission to review, your rules and roles and responsibilities. If there's any questions on that, we can certainly, that at a subsequent meeting, you can bring that up under items from the commission and we can follow up on that.
Motion to receive and file?
Second, all in favor? Aye. We have received and filed. Okay. Our next item is, where we're at here, commission member items and future commission agenda topics.
You know what?
Oh, did you have a I see.
Go, you did it first.
Sorry.
All right, this is an item, not a future agenda topic, but just a couple of things. We had previously requested that whenever possible, staff could provide us with PDF slides from the PowerPoints. And I know John's new, and I don't know if it was his responsibility. Knowing that sometimes these presentations are worked on up until right before the meeting, that's understandable. But even getting any kind of lead time would be helpful. So I just wanted to remind staff of that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the reminder, and we will continue. We probably just dropped the ball this last time, but we will continue to work to do that. I know we were successful for a few meetings, and
that was good.
Habits are hard to change, though.
Old days.
And then the other thing I noticed, so I'm just looking for some clarification here. Sometimes when a speaker was at the dais, the time would get extended in the middle.
It was weird tonight. It was all over the place.
And so I don't know if
Maybe
Jamal,
the
if you have
timer's
control over that. I just don't. What are the rules as it relates to that?
In terms of the extension of time?
Without a motion to extend, it was like in the middle.
It went from like 1 minute to 2.5 minutes a couple different times.
Was that because, or can you speak to that? Or?
Jamal, was that a technical issue or?
Sometimes you guys say a time to extend it by, and when you don't, I'll do it by a minute or 2 minutes, just depending on your direction.
You're doing a preemptive extension.
So should we, when we do a motion to extend, should we say motion to extend for 30 seconds or motion to extend for 1 minute? Okay, so that's helpful.
We need to
for us.
clarify the time period.
Okay.
So is there a default for the motion? When there's a motion to extend, is there a default? Is it a minute or a minute and a half, or what is
There's no default time.
Okay.
The commission may want to, depending on like the number of attendees waiting to speak at that time.
Yeah, okay.
But typically at the council, they do say motion to extend by 30 seconds. They define how long or a minute.
Okay.
Also, when the gentleman was speaking in the middle, it looked like it hopped up 30
Yeah, it did
seconds.
jump.
Was that because we were engaging in conversation with him and we wanted to make sure he got his full 33 minutes?
Yes. Giving you more time.
I assume that was the case.
That makes sense, yeah.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Hazeltine.
Yes.
You have your mouse present.
I do. Mara Lang had sent me an email saying that sometimes driveways are removed, but the curb is not put back in and the driveway remains. And then you have an opportunity where we would be able to plant a tree, but there's actually a driveway. And she says she's seen that. And I had said, well, email you guys. And I'm sure it's just an oversight, how they would get through plan check, I don't know. But sometimes she said a driveway is not going into it's in the parkway. So the apron is not going onto the driveway. There's no driveway any longer, but the apron remains. And I had said, I thought that was Public Works.
Yeah, we could look into that. I
But-
know that Public Works, they review these applications too, and they typically require that the sidewalk be restored and that be addressed as part for an
Yeah.
abandoned driveway. But we can take a look at that. I think it might even be a standard condition for these
Well, I'm
projects.
sure it is.
Well,
So it must be an
sometimes.
oversight on where she said that she's seeing these, but she said they're out there.
Well, my neighbor across the street tried to do that, and it only changed because the next door neighbor complained about it.
And then the city
Yeah.
came and filled it in with the park.
So it came
parkway.
by and said, no, you can't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I appreciate you raising that. I will talk to Public Works and our inspectors, because the inspectors can identify that, building inspectors, which is in my department,
Right.
and have them correct it. So let me look into that. I wasn't
Yeah.
aware that was an issue.
Yeah, I've been looking for him. I haven't seen him either, but
I think
she's
she was
seen
talking
him,
on
so,
Avenue B.
yeah.
It was Avenue B, I think, right? Yeah.
I don't know. She
Yeah,
just
that's where, I think.
said it's happening.
She told me after the meeting we had last,
Okay.
after their public amenities meeting, she said something, she was going to send us something.
Yeah,
And she
she
said
did.
it was on her street. I think she lives on Avenue B.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know it is something that's addressed because I've had conversations with Public Works about it. And they actually have a public right-of-way inspector too for these projects. So let me find out. I'll look into it and just see. I don't know if one just got missed or if it's been like a trend.
Well, I know that, if it was in our neighborhood and I called the city, they would probably just fix it,
Yeah.
put the curb up. That's
Yeah.
all it needs is a curb and a removal of a driveway. So I don't know what's happening there.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Nothing else, though.
Seeing no other mice. I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.